Alrighty, whiteys. Oh, boy. We got some stuff to go over, don't we? Crazy, crazy stuff. Crazy stuff going down today. How's everyone doing? Glad to see so many people here. Tomorrow we'll have a much longer stream for sure. I have... I'll message him. Let's see. Real quick. How would I... Give him a little bit of a fire. Yeah, that's cool. There we go. There we go. How's everybody doing? Is this thing gonna update at all? Man, I am waiting for YouTube. Let's see. I'll just go ahead and say thank you to everybody who's here. Hey, Cherokee Chick. Hey, Madness. Hey, Ashley Wynn. Hey, Natalie Ehrman. Hey, Smiles. Let's see. Who else is in here? Hey, Loving Failure. Hey, Conserve Mama. Hey, Loyal Love. Oh, hey, Not Indexed. Who else we got here? I got my... Yep, I got... Who else we got in here? Hello, Kang the Conqueror. It's a good name. He has a funny name. Hey, Rachel Willington. Jujubee. Got the whole gang in, don't we? Got anybody else here? Hey, Draponi. Hello. Betty Mongolia. Stargazer. Lids. Observing Chaos. Angie. Rog Peru. Listening from Spain. Heck yeah, man. I appreciate that. Tracy. It's as good as I can pronounce that name. KSJHWK. Hello, Misty. Alrighty, I think we got the gang going for the most part. So, have you all seen the stuff going down today? We got some stuff. I got some meaty tortellini. Heck yeah. So, we're going to talk about Alex Stein, a guy that I really, really, really like. And this really, really sucks to see him backslide. This is actually pretty terrible. Pretty terrible, guys. I'm going to play some of that. We're going to go over this whole video here. Is that James Lindsay now? Did he get super skinny and turn into Volodymyr Zelensky? Volodymyr Zelensky. He's a piece of work. Yeah. Volodymyr Zelensky. Yeah, anyway. Hey, baritone. What's this? Happened to my solar baritone? I'm going to save that video for later. I'd like to know myself what happened to his baritone. Oh, man. Yeah, I knew it was coming, though, because he said somebody mentioned something negative about Tucker Carlson back in, like, November or something like that, and he was like, oh, you can't insult him. That's, like... And you could tell he looks a lot like Tucker. Like, he's trying to follow in the steps of Tucker, so I think he just slipped right on into it. I don't know if he's paid or not. But to change, when he changes his stance and he's going around saying that, acting like Laura Loomer did something different, or Laura Loomer's bad in any way, shape, or form, like, I can understand people coming out against Laura Loomer to a degree. I like Laura Loomer. I don't like necessarily the way she handles certain things. I think she's too emotionally driven. Anyway, sorry about being late, by the way, guys. I had to go shower off a bunch of just everything from outside on me. Did some outside work, to say the least. And then, yeah. So, there's that. So, sorry about being 15 minutes late. Yep. Anyway, guys. Yeah, so, I don't know. It's really, really weird. Really weird. I don't know what's happening. So anyway, let's go ahead and jump on into it, guys. Let's jump on into this part. I'm sure more people will funnel in, and then we'll get into the Candace cult here coming up. So this is going to be interesting. So Alex Stein immediately crashed out when Beck mentioned Laura Loomer, saying she's disgusting and evil. Again, I understand people not wanting to like Laura Loomer. I understand people saying things like this to a degree. Not that I think she's evil, but she is very, very much like if you kind of step in the wrong direction, she's going to jump on you. Sometimes it's undeserved to a degree. A lot of the times it seems to be deserved, but I have a different philosophy. I mean, you guys know, you're on my channel. I have a little bit different of a different philosophy on how to handle people for the most part. Always stay composed because your composure knocks your opponent off balance. It's that simple. When you cave in, they're going to go where you've caved in at. You know what I mean? You start getting upset, they are going to go in it hard, and then they're going to focus on that and it's going to get you. Sometimes it's easy to get knocked off balance. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes you get knocked off balance no matter what, even if it was difficult to knock you off balance. It happens. It just happens with Laura Loomer a lot, I think. She gets, yeah. I mean, fairly, exactly. She's an attack dog. Exactly. I just don't like being that way. But it's fine. She's got her style and whatnot. I think she's right. The points she makes are correct. There have been times where she was wrong. And that's fine too. It's okay to be wrong every now and then if you walk it back, if you admit you were wrong. But she's kind of like Candace where I don't really see her doing that, in that sense. Like, it's the unapologetic 2016, 2015 YouTuber. Never apologize. You know what I mean? And I just think that we're beyond that. It's fine to be wrong on something and be like, nah, I messed up. Totally fine. It's easier to do that. And I just don't see them doing that one way or the other. And I think it's just pointless to get that heated, It's just, I don't know. I just don't see a reason. And like I said, if that's the way she wants to be and all, I'm not gonna tell her she's wrong for being that way. It's just, I think people just don't want to, they don't want that blood sports. The blood sports era of YouTube is kind of gone. You know what I mean? But it was fun. Don't get me wrong. The blood sports stuff was fun back in the day. Anyway, so Alex Stein immediately crashed out when he mentioned her. Laura Loomer does more for anti-Semitism. The way she characterizes Muslim people is so disgusting and evil, it makes me absolutely sick. Well, how's that anti-Semitic to criticize Islam? It's kind of a weird take. Let's watch it real quick.
Laura, real quick, timeout, TV timeout. I want you to finish it up. Laura Loomer does more for anti-Semitism. She creates more anti-Semitism. And the fact is, she will call anybody a racist. And I'm a free speech absolute.
I'm sorry, but Candace Owens does way more call people racist than Laura Loomer does.
But the way that she characterizes Muslim people is so disgusting and is so evil. It
really? Interesting.
Makes me absolutely sick, and I don't co-sign anything she says. You can criticize a person's religion a little bit, but the way she characterizes them as dogs, as like less than, she is.
I guess so. That's the case. Oh, hold on 1 second, guys. I'll be right back. Ooh, sorry about that, guys. My dog was digging a hole under the fence. Huh. He was about that close to getting out. So that sucked. Now I'm going to have to go fill that in after this. Holy cow. All day today I've been digging around in dirt. Finally got it all showered off. Had to run out there. It is a mud pit because our house kind of sits on a hill and our backyard's very slanted. All built up down there by the fence. So it's just like a standing mud water pit. And the dog was just digging it all up. Anyway, it's not that big of a deal. The dirt's there. It's all on our side. So filling it back in won't take too long. But dang it, I just got clean. It's like I'm doing this after the stream. I'm not filling this in right now. Anyway, all right, let's jump back on in here.
One of the most disgusting, repugnant human beings on planet Earth. Lord!
So I can understand somebody, I can understand somebody saying something like that when they're being nasty to other people. I kind of understand saying less than human and dogs. I wouldn't classify people like that if they haven't done a physical crime. But the actual, like, criticizing Islam 100%, I guess I kind of get where he's coming from. They kind of took him out of context a little bit. But that being said, the way that Islam is disgusting, and I hope he could say that out loud, that Islam is a disgusting, despicable religion. That's what I think. And I'll show you guys something funny in a second, just in case here. You said, what Native American nation are you a member of? I'm descendant of Eastern Band of Cherokee. So yes, I am Cherokee as well. Mainly, most of my blood from Native Americans are Cherokee. There is a little bit of variance, and I'm not entirely sure because there's some family that I don't know that have other tribal, well, they have other tribal memberships. I'll have to get a hold of them one day, but yeah, I am mostly Cherokee. So there's that. The wife is Seneca Cayuga. She's very, very much Seneca. Oh, yeah, kind of wild stuff. Anyway, let's hear this. Oh, no, that was the full clip. So, anyway, going to the other clip, here's Alex Stein literally throwing a hot dog at a Muslim boxing rival.
You're a big booty Latina. You look very beautiful in that dress. You look very dress.
We're going to get past the booty Latina.
Who harassed?
Where's the box? Oh, here it is.
Stein trained for his fight against TikToker Modine.
Let me tell you one thing, yeah? You see that brain of yours, yeah? I'm gonna stick your nose in your brain, you know.
Shut up! Whoa, the camera.
Dean, seen here, is Muslim. Thus, Stein, an alt-right caricature, did the following.
I know you love hot dogs, so...
Oh!
Yeah, there's some hot dogs for you. Wow. Yeah, there's some hot dogs, Mo. I know you love that.
Those hot dogs on him. I would say it's kind of hard for him to fully take that, but of course TYT here is all, oh, this is bad. He threw a weeder at him. Oh, did you see those weed? Oh, that probably that means he has to transition in his culture now. He hit him with a whole bunch of hot dogs. Now they can't look at him as a man anymore. That'd be so funny. No, but yeah, that's what Alex Stein did. So if you fully go, because they are saying that he kind of converted in the same way as Tucker Carlson. He didn't go that hard in this clip. I suspect he may. I don't know yet. If he doesn't, kudos. You know, I'm really glad he didn't. If he does, well, this video is going to get a lot of play. Let's put it that way. It's going to get used a lot against him. And good luck. Good luck with that, if that's the case. He walks a very fine line right now, for the most part, between this getting used against him every day for the rest of his life, or taking some Qatari money and having to just not care about it, or he ends up not doing that, comes to his senses a bit and goes, yeah, Islam's pretty bad. Islam's pretty bad. So, we'll see. We'll see which side he takes. If, I understand just randomly calling anybody who's a Muslim, less than human, stuff like that. That's pretty bad. That you don't do that. Because at the end of the day, yes, they may be Islamic. Yes, they may actually believe in, I don't know what they believe in per se. If they tell you they do believe in that you should be dead for not believing their religion, I'm not going to be so sympathetic if someone calls them less than you. Because to say that somebody deserves to die because they don't think right, like just like them, that's pretty bad. But if they don't believe that, and they never act on that, well, I'm not going to sit there and criticize them, you know. But at the end of the day, oh, who won this fight? I wonder who did win. Who did win that? I don't think I kept up with it. Who won the boxing match with Alex Stein? Alex Stein won. Wow. By decision. Okay. So it wasn't knockout or anything, but yeah, he won. Okay. Good for him, for sure. I really like Alex Stein a lot. I think he's very funny. So I'm going to give him some benefit of the doubt, you know. I'm going to give him some benefit of the doubt on it. I'm going to wait for him to fully come out and say, oh, I fully support Islam now, or, you know, the opposite. And hopefully it's the opposite. Let's just put it that way. Anyway, that's kind of it for that for the most part. Not really much to see there. I just thought it was interesting. Protester backs murder defendant regardless of evidence at trial. Huh? Interesting. Are they gonna... Today's day 5, right? I wonder how that went. Let's see. The jury, so, the all-white jury, okay, weighs testimony from 35 witnesses over 2 weeks. I think all 35 witnesses are against Metcalf, so there is that. Witnesses describe Carmelo Anthony as aggressor. Yep. Yeah. Not surprised. Judge told the media not to identify the current witness because he's a... Okay. Right. This witness says Carmelo Anthony was asked at least 15 times to leave their tent. Anthony refused to leave. The teen says no one ganged up on Carmelo. Witnesses add that Carmelo was provoking Austin. Witnesses says Austin Metcalf pushed Carmelo, but it wasn't a hard push. That's when Carmelo pulled the knife from his book bag and stabbed Austin. He adds Carmelo tossed the weapon and ran off. Well, there you have it. Good luck. Carmelo is cooked. Yeah. Oh, yeah, he's going to be cooked. He's done. He's finished. I'm going to save these for tomorrow. I think this will be a good... Let's take a little look at this, and then we'll start the video.
Witness testimonies are happening now. So far, there's 3 different witnesses to take the stand and give their accounts of what took place during the fatal stabbing of Austin. The first witness says that Carmelo was already underneath the tent when he arrived, and that himself, Austin, and other athletes approached him asking him to leave. At first, he said it was not aggressive, but then things started to escalate. He remembers Carmelo refusing to leave, Austin saying, "You need to leave," and Carmelo saying, "Touch me and find out." He testified that Austin leaned in to push him, and that's when Carmelo stabbed him. He said that Carmelo had his backpack on his lap with his hand inside of it, but to be honest, they all thought it was a bluff. When the prosecution wanted to know more about the shove, was it light, was it hard? He said it was more in between. When the defense did their cross-examination, they wanted to get more of a visual about the push. So the witness testified saying that Austin put both of his hands on Carmelo's shoulders to push him, and that's when Carmelo reached in, grabbed the blade, and did what he did. That was the first teammate of Austin's who was a witness. Now we have witness number 2, who is also his teammate. Witness 2 says that Austin confronted Carmelo right away, asking him why he was in their tent. He then went on to ask him to leave multiple times. Carmelo did not. The witness also states that Carmelo said numerous times that he has something in his bag. The witness says Austin was irritated, frustrated, and just wanted Carmelo out of there. His statement is that Carmelo nudged Austin and then stabbed him. He believes it was not self-defense and that it was provoked by Carmelo. So as we can see, this witness is saying that there was not even a shove. The first one is saying there was a shove. Second one so far is saying there wasn't, that Carmelo's the one that nudged him. That's what makes trials so hard when there's different witness accounts, because how can you be in such a close proximity witnessing the situation?
Oh, by the way, I think I got that's right. Oh, I got 2 of them. Oh, Cherokee Chick, actually, you sent 2 super chats, by the way. I didn't see your first one. Looking forward to the show. That show is now started. Thank you so much. I want to definitely properly thank you. Thank you so very much, Cherokee Chick. You're awesome. Absolutely amazing. I wasn't able to fully tell that you were Cherokee, though.
One sees a shove, one doesn't. So it becomes really hard to decipher the truth.
What gave it away?
Witness 3 says Austin, again, like we've heard in other accounts, was asking him who he was. He then says that Carmelo was trying to provoke Austin to touch him. He recalls Carmelo saying, touch me, and see what's going to happen.
Can we not phrase it that way, please? All right.
And Austin, he said verbatim, said, I'm not going to fight you at a track meet. He then says that Austin just touches Carmelo on the shoulder, and the next thing he knew, he heard Austin saying that he stabbed me. So these are the first 3 witness statements, and they are coming from the prosecution side. They're all teammates of Austin Metcalf's. For the most part, they do have similarities, but then there are also differences on their accounts of what they witnessed.
That's just crazy. Absolutely crazy. The question is why did he go in their tent and provoke them like that? Why did he do that? Who put him up there to go into that tent? There's no way. He just thought one day, like, you know what? Because he could go and he could do this to somebody in the streets. You know what I mean? He could find somebody by themselves. Just bam and run off. Have nobody coming after him. Why go into a tent with a bunch of school kids? Why go in there so confidently, like, I'm just going to do this in front of a bunch of people? And then why have this whole entire trial? You see what I'm saying? Like, why have it go this route? Because that's the only route it could have gone. It just seems, how would I put it? It seems like somebody put him up to do this. You see what I'm saying? Isn't that weird? Did Alex Stein also said dinosaurs never existed? I mean, yeah, I guess so then. Weird. I don't know. It's like, it's very weird, the whole dinosaur thing, because it's like there's not really a mention of that in the Bible at all. And the Bible never contradicts it in any way, shape, or form, per se. So it's like, I don't know why people believe that dinosaurs weren't real. You know, just weird. Don't know who Alex Stein is? Oh, he's very funny. He's a very, very funny guy. He replaced Steven Crowder on The Blaze. But of course, Steven Crowder's awesome. Nothing wrong with Steven Crowder in my eyes. I think everybody should be watching him. I would love to have a chat with Steven Crowder. That'd be a lot of fun. So anyway, that's the Carmelo Anthony stuff. I am going to probably do a video over this tomorrow. I'm sure nothing else is happening over the weekend.
Witness testimonies are happening now. So far, there's...
Okay, play that again. Let's see. When does it end? Jurors shown knife allegedly and stabbing. Okay, so it's ongoing right now. What's the last day? Let's see. Okay, don't tell me anything like that. So I'll go to AI mode now to find it. Used to be easy to find things on the front of Google. The murder trial of Carmelo Anthony is expected to wrap up its testimony by Friday, June 12th. Oh, okay. Today's oh, no. Never mind. Next week. Okay. Well, that's interesting. Jury statement started Monday. Opening statements took place the 4th, so that was yesterday. Okay, so the official court is going today, tomorrow, then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Okay, that's good. We're definitely we should be live streaming that probably next week too. That'll be a good idea. Anyway, alrighty guys, you ready to get into the main meat of this whole thing? You ready to get into some crazy Candace Owens cultism? Let's see here. Let's get it. Let's get it on. Actually, before we get it on here, definitely checking to see if Candace Owens has updated anything. Why not? 20 hours ago, okay. 10 hours ago, this. Okay, she hasn't updated anything yet. Maybe she's replied to people. Nope. She's still chilling in Russia. Okay. All right, guys. Now we're going to see her cult. I think this is James Lindsay. It looks like him. He also looks like Zelensky. It's kind of wild. That black shirt isn't... just looks exactly like Zelensky now. That's wild. It's a really crazy thing. So, anyway. Alrighty. Let's take a look. And let's get it on, guys. Get it on. Alrighty.
Iranian alliance meant to destroy America. Now, this becomes very pertinent to the propaganda we're seeing from people like Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, and so on today. You see them supporting the Iranian regime and opposing the U.S.-Israel alliance against the Iranian regime, but this fits perfectly into Dugin's broad strategy to unite with the Islamic world, as he calls it, and Iran in particular, to destroy that Western snake that's crushing the land powers in the world island, which he thinks are destined, because of their massive land that he has, they are destined to rule the world. They just haven't been able to figure out how to get there yet.
Okay, I've got so many different angles I want to explore here. Welcome back, everyone, to the Shoulder to Shoulder podcast. Pastor.
Okay. So this is, I never remember how to pronounce his name. Pasak Waliki. You guys can, actually, let me see how to pronounce this. He's reacting to, a James Lindsay video. Okay. I'd probably... Let's see. Pasak Waliki. I was pretty close. Pasak Waliki. So not Pasak, Pasak. Okay, Pasak Waliki. Alrighty. Okay, I was pretty close. Cool. Yeah, we're going to watch him react to James Lindsay, and I'm going to react to him reacting to James Lindsay. This will be fun.
Pastor Doug is on the road this week, so he will not be with us. I'm going to be flying solo. Well, I do have a wonderful guest, but just make sure that you are subscribed to the channel. Make sure that you
he's going to have
connected to us on Facebook.
He's going to actually have James Lindsay on here? Okay.
Facebook with the Shoulder to Shoulder community. And make sure that you check out Israel365news.com for all your news and analysis from Israel from a biblical perspective. Make sure you check out my columns there. And please go over to Patreon and subscribe, become a...
You know, the name Israel 360, I think, would sound a lot better than Israel 365. I think it just makes it nice, roundabout way. You know, no puns intended. Just my advice. I don't know. I just think it sounds cooler. What do you guys think? Israel 365 or Israel 360?
Patreon subscriber to this podcast. You can help support us. We do have some production costs, and it really does help us continue to do what we do. We're closing in on 5 years of the Shoulder to Shoulder podcast, and it's thanks to all of you that we've been able to do this. So go over to Patreon, and for your gift, for your support of $10 a month, you will gain access to an archive of Bible studies with myself and Pastor Doug, chapter by chapter Bible study.
An archive of our Israeli calendar. They're just shredded or something. That would be hilarious. Not that I would get it, but it would just be funny to hear this dude like actually be like, yeah, we've got like a, you know, kind of like the sexy firefighter like calendar, you know what I mean? But instead it's a bunch of Jewish guys.
He's starting in Genesis 1. Each lesson's about 15, 20 minutes long. We go through a chapter of the Bible, share some insights, a pastor and a rabbi, kind of unique. And that's all for you, for helping support us in the Shoulder to Shoulder podcast. Well, I'm not gonna waste any more time. I want to get right into it. Very important.
You're gonna side with Hamas, the not terrorists, right? They definitely don't blow themselves up around people or anything like that, do they? Hey, Jersey. You know, I'm gonna take a Israeli terrorist propaganda. No, it's not.
Important topic here. I've been meaning to engage in this conversation.
When was the last time you saw an Israeli strap a bomb to their chest and run into a crowd and scream Allah Akbar and ignite?
Dr. James Lindsay has been on the podcast before. He's no stranger to this audience.
When did James Lindsay become a doctor? What?
I would call him a field general in the information warfare space that we have now. That's the best way I could describe it. He's someone who's really been fighting the good fight in many ways and has suffered for it, and has become in recent months a dear friend.
2010.
And just welcome back to the podcast, James. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Rabbi.
I had no idea he was a doctor. I've known about James Lindsay for 12 years.
I said to you, I don't want to waste any time with our viewers, and I want to get right into the topic. I want to explain what we're talking about here. So with all of the, this might be a little bit of a long tee up just to frame the conversation, and then I'll give it over to you. But what we've seen over this last, I don't know, year and a half or so, it's hard to say when exactly it began, with all of the rise of not only hatred of Israel coming from what's considered the conservative right or the podcast universe. We're talking about people like Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens and some others. And my on again, off again associate Steve Bannon has gotten involved in this as well. You have but it's not only about Israel. There seems to be this decidedly down on America slant under the guise of being patriots and being America first and loving America. There's a lot of this, it almost sounds like, what the left does with the 1619 Project and criticizing the American origins. There's a lot of demonizing of America. And some of this takes the guise of rewriting the history of World War II and Churchill being the bad guy and Hitler being the good guy. And it's very difficult to make.
That is a wild take. Like, for the love of God, if you're gonna take such a stance, you really need to provide solid proof. Solid proof that the big bad guy from World War II there was a good guy. Like, it's unbelievable. I'm not saying it's impossible, right? For evidence to come out to show, oh, wait a minute, we actually had things backwards. There was some missing context. There was some, you know what I mean? But show it, like actually show it. Don't just come out with a conspiracy theory and expect people like me to just jump on it and be like, oh yeah, I believe that. The Germans then were good. I can't view any type of socialist or communist to be good. You know what I mean? It's really hard to put something like that in a good framing. And a lot of people are like, oh, well, they weren't really socialists. They just did it in name. Oh, okay. What was their economy like? Oh, people couldn't own private property. Oh, that's weird. Okay. Oh, people couldn't freely trade with each other. Oh, okay. Oh, businesses had to abide exactly by what the Germans said that they had to do. Oh, okay. Sure. Oh, they had labor camps exactly like the communists. Oh, yeah, no, totally. They were so right-wing, you know what I mean? Super right-wing, weren't they? Yeah, they were just leftist dictators that ran their country exactly like communist Russia and the Chinese Communist Party. The exact same way. And people want me to believe that those guys in Germany at that time were right-wing. Sure. Okay, sure. Their economic system was the exact same as communist Russia and communist China. Oh, okay. Yeah. No, you're so right. They were just so much like the right-wingers. All right, sure.
Make sense of all of this. And I don't know a lot about this topic, but I know from the little drips and drabs that I've had there that there is this.
I've watched like 5 of his videos. He's good.
Russian guy named Dugin, Alexander Dugin, who's some Russian political thinker who has had a great influence. I know that Tucker Carlson has a relationship with him and traveled to Russia and met with him. And that's a big piece of this whole world is this glorification of Vladimir Putin as part of the whole ethos of this strange movement. And I wanted to have you on because I know that you've been digging into this and you've been looking at it, and some of the tweets that I saw from you over the last few months, I thought you were the right person to talk to about this. So I'm going to just tee you up with that. It's not really a question, but could you explain to us what it is we're seeing here? And I think this is the right time to talk about it because I know Candace Owens is currently in Russia. Apparently she's visiting Dugin right now.
Hey, April.
I just want to help us understand what we're seeing because there's been so much talk about this group, so much worry about the anti-Semitism on the right and the anti-Israel sentiment and this woke right, all the different terms that are for it.
We are 4 minutes into this video, so don't worry. We didn't talk about really dinosaurs or anything. Someone just brought up that Alex Stein doesn't believe dinosaurs existed, all that, so. We watched a little bit of Alex Stein before this.
But you seem to be getting to the bottom of what it's all about.
Ooh, I am eating tortellini
this is a big topic, just to throw this out there. And what Alexander Dugin is not a small part of the story, but he's not anything like the whole story. So I just kind of want to start by saying that. And Alexander Dugin's this interesting character because it's not at all clear how seriously he's taken in Russia. And I don't just mean by Russian citizens. I also mean by Russian serious political people such as Putin or even the Russian military leaders who have been for some decades now educated on some of Dugin's ideas. It's not actually clear how seriously he's taken. But the thing is that he is being taken seriously in this particularly Russophilic segment of this more radical right, which also turns out to be anti-Israel, turns out to be anti-U.S. In a very real way, anti-Trump, and kind of anti-everything that seems to be going right since Trump got reelected. And so Dugin's significant to them. Like you said, he's got some relationship with Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson, when he went to Russia a couple of years ago, rather famously sat down and interviewed Alexander Dugin, thus introducing him on a very big scale to an American audience. But he's by no means the only one who's done that. There's a character that goes by a pseudonym called Aaron McIntyre, who works at The Blaze, which is a fairly substantial, right-wing conservative media outlet, and he's interviewed, or hosted, I should say, Dugin twice. He interviewed him once, and he hosted a discussion between Dugin and the radical right neo-reactionary named Nick Land, who has fairly crazy ideas.
I don't remember Nick Land. I'll have to look into it. Joni Lee for the $5. Thank you, Artie, for all that you do. Well, thank you for being here, and thank you for that donation. That's very nice of you. Thank you so much. Yeah, I guess, what name did he just say again? Good Lord, I have a short. Okay, I guess I gotta click first. Oh, okay. All right. What name did he say? Nick Land?
Neo-reactionary named Nick Land, who has fairly...
I guess so. Nick Land. Okay, Land. Philosopher? Is this the same one? I mean, seems so. Land in 2025. This has to be the guy, right? He is an English philosopher best known for popularizing the ideology of accelerationism. Interesting. Okay. A range of ideologies that call for the use of capitalism and associated processes to create radical society transformations. Broadly, accelerationism engages with anti-humanism as well as post-humanism and seeks to accelerate desired tendencies within capitalism. Why does it have to be capitalistic based? Like, that doesn't make sense. None of this requires capitalism. Seeks to accelerate desired tendencies within capitalism at the expense of negative one. Oh, is this a dude that wants to like go so hyper-capitalism that he has robots taking over our taking over all our jobs and stuff? So through the transhumanism and the accelerationism, we inevitably end up at communism for the people, but the people that run the companies and have all these robots underneath them, like, they get to be capitalist? Is this one of those? Is this champagne socialism just repackaged? Do variants differ greatly on which tendencies and if this will lead beyond capitalism or further into it? Wish I could get a good, quick background on it. Cybernetic Culture Research Unit, CCRU. Okay. Nope. Concepts. Don't see. Okay. Okay. So it's a Marxist acceleration of contradictions. Okay. That's kind of what I thought. I'm guessing it's leading to that road. To be a misconception, it stated that no accelerationist authors have advocated for such a thing. Oh, I see. Somebody's saying that because of his accelerationism, it will push everybody into Marxism, but then he denies it. All right, whatever. I don't care. I don't really care too much. But anyway, what's James Lindsay's qualm with him here? Is he exciting with him, or is he going against him? I guess we'll find out. Light mode reader? Oh, I'm not in light mode at all. See, I can even show you. Yeah. Dark mode all the way. That was just for some reason that website. I don't know why. It didn't like my dark mode. I guess it just rejected dark mode in general. I don't know what's up with that.
Fairly crazy ideas. you can go back to the archives and look in early 2018, as far back as that, and see Richard Spencer and Nick Fuentes discussing Dugan and his ideas and the relevance to the...
Well, yeah, I mean, if you better believe if Richard Spencer is cool with it, so is Nick Fuentes. Nick Fuentes was just Richard Spencer's, like, cover. So most of you guys probably don't know this. I was around way before Nick Fuentes. Way before. Nick Fuentes, after Richard Spencer got discovered, you know what I mean? Because at first he was not a neo-bad guy from World War II. You see what I'm saying? Because I can't say the word here on YouTube because they don't like it. But we were defending him. He was the first person to get punched by a leftist and called, you know, that particular N-word, you know, N-A-Z-I. And, everyone was like, no, he's not that. This is crazy, da-da-da-da. And then it came out that he actually was, which was a huge L for us, to be honest, because first of all, it proved the left correct. And then second of all, they used it to justify attacking. So it was not great. That sucked. But he was that. He was pushing for an ethno-state with JF and Andy Worski and all them. He ended up debating Styx Hexenhammer, of all people, and got his absolute rear end handed to him badly. He could not, refute anything Styx said, and he kept trying to change the subject like a little leftist. Now, after his humiliating defeat, and then eventually him calling for us to vote against Donald Trump in 2019 and vote for Democrats, well, that's when Richard Spencer took the fall and Nick Fuentes took over. Exact same time. They were always together. Always, always, always. Richard Spencer was a Fed 1,000,000%. I agree with that. And same with Nick Fuentes. They've been working hand in hand since the very beginning. And then, you know, he was the emergency replacement, and he's got to try and do better. He pushes kind of, not exactly against an ethno-state, but he doesn't push for the ethno-state. But he was on that side to kind of start. He was a little lukewarm with it. And now he doesn't really talk about it as often as unless I miss it. Maybe he does talk about it. But a little bit of a change in strategy. You know, they're slowly kind of working their little fingers into this. But he is just Richard Spencer 2.0.
Alt-right as early 2018. And then, of course, when Steve Bannon, as you mentioned,
sent me the video of Charlie appointing Erica CEO
out of the White House by President Trump in his first term. One of the first meetings that Bannon had was a day-long meeting with Dugan in Rome. And so this guy is a character that just kind of keeps popping in. And his philosophy is relevant, maybe not because of its relevance in Russia, but certainly because of his relevance to this radical alt-right, woke right, reactionary right, whatever we're calling this thing. And his philosophy is peculiar. This guy's a weirdo.
They released this?
I mean, we have to actually start with a judgmental term like weirdo. Previously...
I'm going to interrupt this, guys, because this... When did this get released?
The Decatur Board of Education announces an investigation following days of controversy surrounding the district.
Oh, wrong video there. When did this get released? That's a little nuts. That's a crazy video that I'm going to have to do on tomorrow. Politics showing that. Okay. All right. They released it. Surprise release, huh? Let's get a live reaction.
Very different woman. Be the woman that your future husband
We got to do this right now.
Be the woman that God wants you to be. You're around people that are pouring into you, that are loving on you, that are a conducive environment for you to be the person that you need to be. This world and this generation needs women who echo the gospel. This world needs women who are marked eternal for temporary and do not life. My passion.
If something happens to me.
This mission is my mission.
I appoint my wife to run Turning Point USA if something happens to me. Erica would do a great job.
They actually showed it. Wow. Let's go back to it. Wait, why did it go so far ahead? What happened? Why did it go so far ahead? That was weird.
And now his mission is my mission.
I appoint my wife to run Turning Point USA if something happens to me. Erica would do a great job.
Okay. Now let's take a good look and make sure it's not AI, of course.
Would do a great job.
This is older Charlie Kirk, too. He had some weight on him. Dang it. Okay.
And now his mission is my mission.
I appoint my wife to run Turning Point USA if something happens to me. Erica would do a great job.
You notice that he's got like a swollen eye, though? Why is that? Why is right here is a little swollen?
Erica would do a great job.
I wonder what happened. I wonder what it's from, too. What's behind him? Aw, man. I kind of wish I knew. I guess it was just there at that, I guess there isn't actual video released of it beforehand, so obviously people would have found this already. But yeah, okay. It's the video. We'll see how Candace spins this for sure. We'll see what happens. This whole thing sounds so sped up. Why?
The most important relationship in your life is the one that you have with your Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. His passion was my passion,
sounds like it's like
and now his mission is my mission.
I appoint my wife to run Turning Point USA if something happens to me. Erica would do a great job.
Maybe it is just me. I would probably be better if I had headphones on. What is that? Who's speaking there? That sounded like a kid. Was that her kid? Is that who that was that just spoke? No, that it sounds a little old. It sounds older than a kid. She sounds weird. Who is that? Wait, no. I don't know if that's her kid or not. It's her daughter? Is it? Her oldest should be 4. Her oldest is the same age as my youngest. My oldest is 5 right now. My youngest is 4. Her oldest is 4. I wonder if that was. I don't know. Does she say? Maybe she'll say. I don't like this music, by the way, for 2 reasons. 1, don't know if it's copyright or not. 2, I don't like that kind of music. It's all party music. It's not my thing. Okay, maybe she'll say it was her daughter.
It is so good to see you guys. My sweet Gigi doing her little mommy. She's very big with the microphone lately. She takes off of her daddy.
There you go. Yep, it was her kid. At the end there, I thought it was like an announcer lady. I actually thought the voice was a little older. Okay. At the beginning of it, it does sound like a child, but at the very end when she goes, Mama, go, it gives the whole, like, kind of belts it out a little bit. Sounded like an adult. Interesting. All right, cool. Okay. Well, we got the video. We're going to see Candace react to that. She's going to call it AI. She's going to. We knew she was going to from the beginning. She will call this AI. She will. 1,000,000%. There's 0% chance she doesn't call this AI. It's happening. They said that she was going to do it. I said she was going to do it. Everybody said she's going to do it. And it's just what's going to happen. She's not going to go, oh, okay, and then drop it. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So there you go. By the way, you have seen my DM that I've sent you to on Discord. I have not yet, actually. I don't have my Discord opened up because it keeps crashing my computer during the live stream. So I'll have to get that figured out and see why that's happening. Everything is AI to her. There was no convincing her anyways. Exactly. But anyway, let's go ahead. We're going to get back to Dugan. We're going to find out why Candace is in this cult. It's going to be interesting. Sounds like her daughter from the other videos I've seen. Oh, I haven't even seen any videos of her and her kids. I don't know. I got a lot going on. Maybe I'll look it up one day just to see, but I don't know. It's also kind of sad. It really bums me out to see, her kids when their dad's gone now. It really bums me out a lot. So I don't know. Maybe I won't. Maybe I will. We'll see what happens.
Until recently, I had only read some of Dugin's essays. I had not read his books. I've started to read his books. I haven't finished either of his two primary works, which are called The Fourth Political Theory, and the other one is called The Foundations of Geopolitics. And that one is the one that the Russian military officers have been required to read for some time now, since the late 1990s. But I did read a couple of his essays, a very short...
No, thank you very much, Cherokee Chick. I appreciate that. Maybe I'll play a little bit of guitar later.
Two very short essays that he wrote in the 1990s as well. One of those is called The Gnostic, where he positions himself as a purveyor of black magic, and he says that magic is the only type of true spirituality in the world, and you have two choices, white or black, and that black is the only way to truly make history. And he calls this path the Gnostic path, and he advocates for it unabashedly. So this is why I call him a weirdo.
Yeah, and Candace Owens is going and rubbing shoulders with this dude who does black magic. She's going and hanging out with people who do like Scientology and stuff like that. And yet, for some reason, she thinks Erica Kirk is satanic. And the people at TPUSA are satanic. Kind of a wild, wild take.
Slow down. Hold on. Let me just I want to make sure that both me and my audience understand what you just said here. So you're saying this guy does not profess to be part of the...
Oh, the video of Charlie saying, this is my wife, that was released today at that woman's thing that they're doing with Erica Kirk. I forgot what it was called. It's a ladies' night, though. Me being a man, when I see ladies' night, I run. And I go hide in my den and play a little bit of guitar. Because that's when I'm going to get some time to actually have a man's night. You know what I mean? So, anytime it's like, hey, we're having a girls' night, we're going shopping, I'm just like, don't got to tell me twice. Guitar time now.
Christian faith, even part of the Russian Orthodox Christian faith. I thought that he was part of the traditional Russian church. Yeah, and if you're saying that he is, how does this fit in? And if he isn't, back up and tell me more about this black magic.
All right, let's just go into you said the magic word there, pun intended. You said the magic word without realizing it, which you said the traditional Orthodox Church. As it turns out, as we've all learned dealing with woke for the last decade, sometimes words mean more than one thing. We're all used to this idea now that, somehow diversity and inclusion seem to have meant something different than what they seem to mean on their face, right? It obviously seems to mean getting radicals to take over an organization under a guise of something that looks like civil rights, but it does not mean actually caring about...
Well, it actually means exclusion. Diversity and inclusion means excluding certain people. That's what that means nowadays. So I get what he's saying, but yeah, I mean, I would just classify it as that.
About diversity because nobody's allowed to think differently, right? So we understand that words mean different things. There is an occult school of thought called traditionalism, usually spelled with a capital T, that is rooted on a guy named René Guénon that basically none of us have ever talked about. I know very little about Guénon himself, but I know that Dugin is a capital T traditionalist, and he references Guénon all the time. Now, our mutual associate Steve Bannon is also listed on the traditionalist Wikipedia entry as a devotee of traditionalism. Now, what traditionalism is, it's like inverted New Age. I'm trying to think of a simple way to explain this philosophy. It's like New Age turned inside out and upside down. So New Age.
Okay, so he's a Crowley guy. Gotcha. No wonder Candace has been reading all about Mr. Crowley. But I bet she doesn't like the song Mr. Crowley, which is the best version of anything involving Mr. Crowley. Legendary song. Jack Black actually did an amazing cover of it, too. I wish Jack Black wasn't so left-wing, and I wish that... I don't know. The good thing is right before Ozzy died, though, he came out as Christian. So, hey, there we go. Now I can consider all of Ozzy's music Christian music. That's the headcanon I'm putting in for myself anyway.
Age kind of has this idea that like all the religions are touching on a truth and we can kind of get airy-fairy and float above them, and the Jews say this and the Muslims say that and the Christians say that and the Buddhists have this and, whatever, Om Namah Shivaya or whatever. And we can just kind of create this spiritual soup for a higher order level of thinking and touch on what's ultimately called the perennial philosophy, that there's one deeper truth, this deeper religion that all the religions are just trying to articulate. So if we start looking across kind of pan-religiously at all the religions, rather than believing that any of them are uniquely true, we believe that all of them are approximations of the truth, and we rise above the religions to get to that perennial truth that's true for all people in all times and all places. And this is usually some kind of weird new age, new thought sort of quasi-mystical spiritualist belief system where basically you get to do whatever you want.
That's the new age thinking.
That's new age. Right. So what would it look like if we turn that inside out and upside down? Rather than picking and choosing from every philosophy, we bore deeply into one. So we pick something, say, the Russian Orthodox Church, or we pick something, say, Shia Islam, and we dig down to the bottom. We dig deeper and deeper and deeper until we see through the particularism and realize that the same perennial philosophy comes out, not by expanding above our religion, but by getting all the way down to its truest essential core. So it's like the opposite direction to get to the same place, which is that all the faiths of the world are actually true, but they manifest in different ways. And by boring into one specific tradition and being as maximally traditionalist in that tradition as you can possibly be, you unlock the secrets of the bigger, broader, universal truth of the whole world. So when he's a traditionalist, Orthodox, Russian Orthodox guy, that's how this is meant. He believes that orthodoxy is a vehicle to a deeper, transcendent truth that exceeds Christianity or any other belief system. And he's openly said this, that Shia Islam does the same thing. So this is your Islam that the Islamic Republic of Iran peddles. That it is also one of these old grand traditions that if you dig all the way to the bottom and you come out the bottom side, you end up in the same place as everybody else that digs to the bottom of their true traditions. Now, Protestant Christianity would not be one of these things. This is considered to be this kind of modern invention. You would not be able to go traditionalist into Protestant Christianity, but Catholicism, Orthodoxy, and Christianity, probably Confucianism and so on, but certainly also Shia Islam. I don't know what he thinks of Sunni Islam. You can dig down to the very bottom. And so his belief system is actually this kind of occultism that by focusing super intensely on one tradition, you end up transcending all tradition.
Okay, wait, before you go on to the black magic and how that fits.
I wonder what specific tradition he decided to really focus on. Is it everything involving Orthodoxy and Sharia? Not Sharia. What Muslims were they? Not Sunnis, the other ones. Whatever the case, I don't care. Whatever, that is. Is there a specific tradition, or is it like all of it specifically within that veil? Kind of curious.
Then,
no pun intended on the veil.
Does he define what that kind of universal core truth that you get to is? Does he say what the content of it is?
I haven't read any of his writings on perennialism specifically, and that would be a question about Guénon. And Guénon is on the horizon of things I haven't got to read yet. So I don't know, but I would bet you that it looks almost exactly the same as the New Age thing, is that we are all one, that certain traditional practices create mystical experiences that create union with God, that unveils to us that we actually are God, and so on and so forth, like they always do.
Oh,
okay. This is how they all believe. So I don't
guess
know,
there's a
but I bet that's what it is.
to any new idea then.
Well, certainly, yes. Absolute purity of a unique tradition, which therefore must not be contaminated by any outside idea whatsoever.
Okay. So where does the black magic fit in?
That's a good question. I just know that he wrote this essay calling himself a Gnostic and saying, he says, the sentence that like starts the essay is that there's only two paths to spirituality in the world, and the right-hand path and the left-hand path, white magic and black magic. And then he argues for the left-hand path or black magic the whole way. So this is why I would suggest that sort of Gnostic Luciferian concept is what he's going to bore into and come out the bottom of his religion or his tradition and find. But I don't know. He just advocates for this unabashedly in this kind of standalone essay that he wrote in 1997 and published in the National Bolshevik magazine that was circulating in Russia at the time. It's a very peculiar piece. And like I said, this is what I read previously from him was The Gnostic and this other essay, which he calls Fascism Borderless in Red, where he advocates that Russians need to adopt a Russian National Socialism that has red communist elements to it, but that transcends both fascism.
Well, it is kind of funny, actually. Jersey Carvin says, wasn't the first true religion animism or shamanism? Technically speaking, no. At least, So the Bible, or passages, not really passages, but stories from the Bible and Sumerianism are very, very, very close in age. But it is also believed that Gilgamesh in the Sumerianist, and that whole thing that started the pagan religion, actually Gilgamesh was Nimrod from the Bible. Both characters are incredibly similar. Incredibly similar, do a lot of different things. They believe that the tomb of Nimrod is actually the tomb of Gilgamesh, so forth and whatnot. So actually, no. If anything, they would be right at about the same age, per se. Not same age. I mean, obviously, the Bible does go back further on, like, before Nimrod. But I'm just saying, like, when it comes to the date and the age of religions that we have found, they would be roughly in that same kind of boat of discovery, I guess you could say. So, I don't know. But I haven't looked too deep into that either. So, ooh, Tracy, you saw Ozzy in 1983, Motley Crue opened for Ozzy. That's pretty awesome. That's right whenever Ozzy got mad at Motley Crue and snorted a line of ants to prove to them that they didn't have anything on him. It was crazy. Yeah, 1983, I bet it was. 1984 is when Pantera first released their album. Though it was very much glam metal. And instead of his name being Dimebag Darrell, his name at the time was Diamond Darrell. Pretty crazy, huh? Good stuff. Funny things. I think 1987 probably had the best releases of music probably of all time. Guns N' Roses released Appetite for Destruction. There was a whole bunch of things that came out in 1987. So many television shows, so many movies. Just almost everything was 1987 for some reason. I don't know what it was about that year, but everything happened in 1987. It's odd. Every time I look at anything, I'm like, oh, this is awesome. What year did it come out? Oh, of course, it's 1987 somehow.
Fascism and communism and the errors of race that the Nazis put forth. But that's only about a 3-page essay. And I thought, wow, this guy is about as un-American as one can possibly be.
Let me look at that.
Explain that. What do you mean?
This idea that it's fundamentally the collective nature of mankind, that this national socialist idea that is what is necessary in the world, that liberalism, he says, is a failed experiment. Communism is a failed experiment. Fascism is a failed experiment. This is the essence of his book, The Fourth Political Theory. So we need a new theory, and that theory will be based off of fascism with communistic elements in order to create a new model that is designed explicitly to oppose the model that the Western world has used, and in particular the United States. So it'll be collectivist at its core. It will be fascistic, which means the intentional sacrifice of the individual for the state apparatus. That's the idolatry of fascism, is that the state subsumes all individual personalities. And so,
by the way, guys, just to interrupt for a second, please give me a like and subscribe if you're new here. I really, really appreciate you guys being here. I am so close to 30,000 subscribers. I think we could do it pretty quick. I think we could do it before this month is over for sure. This month just started, but it would be awesome to get to 30,000 subscribers as fast as possible, because that is a crazy number to hit. Thank you all so much for being here.
You are bound by duty and honor to devote your entire being to the well-being of the community, the folk, or the state. But it's not going to have these same characteristics, like I said, of Nazism or communism. But it must, he says, be read, and it must be borderless. It must not worry about national borders while it still retains that ethnic national character, which is kind of this paradox. And like I said, it's a 3-page essay, so I wish I could explain it better, but he doesn't give you a lot to go on. It's one of these, he's one of these writers that in his essays is very etheric, very, like, he doesn't finish ideas, and it's hard to follow. His books, however, seem to be the other way around. He seems to be very, very clear in these books, in particular, The Foundations of Geopolitics, which I think has kind of opened my eyes to the line of thinking that not just this new radical right here in America and also what's called the new right in Europe use, but this kind of Eurasianist model that explains why Russia is siding with Iran, why they're trying to create the BRICS alliance as an anti-Atlantic, anti-American project.
So talk about that. What are the underlying ideas that, that produce that?
This is this is unfortunate. It's like there's a lot to unpack, and then there's not much to say. If that makes
Lori Stoltz for the $10 super sticker. Thank you so much for that. I was wondering why it wasn't loading. I had to refresh. Thank you so much. That's very nice of you.
Makes any sense, when you run into something like that where there's he's occupying another world of thought, and once you kind of like lay out the ground rules, it doesn't really say anything. But so his concept of geopolitics, first of all, we have to understand, because what he means by geopolitics is not what you probably mean by that word. That word has a couple of meanings in the common use. There is a specialist use that he didn't invent. I'm not accusing him of inventing it, but there's a specialist use of this word that most people don't know. So the two common uses of the word geopolitics are kind of like what he calls world politics. So we're now concerned with nation against nation, the politics of, large regions. What are the concerns of the entire Middle East and what that means for, say, China? That's a geopolitical analysis, right? But that's not what he means. And then secondly, you might say, well, it's the politics related to, say, where are the minerals, where is the water, where are the ports, where are, navigable waterways. So geographical and geological politics. And that's closer to what he means, but it's still not what he means. And those are the two common parlance uses of the word geopolitics. What he means by geopolitics is a belief that the type of space that a country or a nation or a people occupy is determinative of who they are and what their destiny is. So in a sense, geography is destiny. So there are, in the big picture in this geopolitical school, two types of powers: land powers and sea powers. Russia, in the middle of the largest land-based country in the world, is the largest land power. America, along with Western Europe, pretty much just the NATO concept, but also the whole Mediterranean, are basically sea powers because they all have access to warm water ports, safe water ports that, say, Germany to a degree, but Russia in particular doesn't have great access to. And that these are fundamentally in a pitched conflict for world domination and control, and that because of their nature, they have...
Naturally, when it comes to people who are always not the best of faith, typically you can imagine that they want world domination. It's weird how that happens, right? They always have something where they're wanting to put their foot down on everybody else. Just typical stuff. K-Potso for the 10, though. Happy Friday, Artie. I hope your wife is feeling better. I hope so, too. Oh, yeah. Are you feeling better? Okay, she's getting there. I don't think there's any more of no more feeling awful from the sick. Auto. Good. It's definitely on its way out. Still a little bit of stuff, but all good here. Absolutely. We're just watching this Candace cultist situation going on. Yeah. No, I mean a real cult. Apparently she's joined one. Good stuff. Oh, where was he at? I looked everywhere for that. Oh my. They need to stop losing it. All right. Alrighty, I think we'll get this started. my daughter lost her favorite stuffed animal, and it was just sitting in my other chair over there. Oh, of course, she loses that thing so often. But yeah, thank you so much, K-Pasto. I really appreciate that. Thank you for the 10 as well. Thank you. You guys are awesome. Let's see here. Candace saying she wants to be a dictator. Yeah, I mean, power collects, you know? But what's funny about it is once all that power kind of collects up, it's always at least someone in there that's wanting to have it all for themselves, and that's why it usually doesn't work out, you know? Someone, at some point, is definitely going to try and usurp the power. That's just what they do.
Fundamentally different values in the peoples that they produce. And this seems impossible to understand for a denizen of the 21st century because we have airplanes and we have safe, well-made ships. But if you go back about 300 years, you can kind of get an idea of like the deep mythology upon which this is based. Land-based, landlocked places like Center Russia, you probably, if you live there, you're probably not going to go anywhere else in your entire life. Transportation is difficult. All shipping is done by train or truck. But 300 years ago, there is no train or truck. So you're talking about like a wagon and trying to get across the land. It's very difficult. But if you're on a seacoast, like in Britain or in Spain, you can just load up a boat on the pier and just go sail, and you can be trading pepper with China, and you could be, harvesting potatoes in South America. You have an entirely different world. So this has created two different types of society.
Yeah, but why would the UK not just use Ireland when it comes to the potatoes? See, there you go. James Lindsay debunked. It's over.
With two different types of values. So this isn't totally crazy. It's just sort of out of date. The
potatoes.
Landlocked idea, the land powers, which he calls tellurocracies.
Hey, Bugsy.
These are based in traditional values. They have to stay stable year after year after year. They are collectivist in their nature, in their organization, and they are ruled by a ruling ideology, whereas the sea powers are based in trade. So you have fluid values. If you're a seafaring Jew and you encounter seafaring Christians, you got to figure out a way to get along to trade.
Oh, that's hilarious, Kadim. So Candace called Trump an oligarch during her Russian interview in the land of oligarchs. Yeah, it was really hard to understand the translations when I watched it. So, I bet there's going to be a better one coming out soon.
If you encounter Muslims, you got to figure a way to trade. It doesn't matter. Your values, therefore, are much less rooted. As a matter of fact, you start to hear stuff that sounds like the old anti-Semitic tropes, that the sea people are rootless, that they're rootless cosmopolitans who will sell out their values in order to make a dollar and to trade and make money. And so money becomes their god. I mean, all the anti-Semitic tropes get attached to the sea people, which he ends up identifying with the Atlantic Ocean, and thus Atlanticism as a philosophy. So that's made up,
and Americans. America. I mean, there's no. Now I'm getting it, because if you just let me kind of paraphrase back some of what I'm hearing. If you see the world as a kind of in this black and white, this pitched battle between the traditional land-based, collectivist societies versus these rootless, seafaring, more entrepreneurial, and if you translate that into ethics today, the rootless seafarers, like America's, who's more rootless than Americans? Americans, they don't even trace their identities back more than a couple centuries at most, and they're also very liberal in their social mores. So it can turn into a kind of cultural, moral struggle as well.
That's right.
Am I hearing you right?
You are hearing me exactly right. You have picked up exactly what Dugin's laying down. As I've articulated it, I think I've done so
You shouldn't be picking up Dugin's. Just saying.
Faithfully. And now the thing is, there's a moral element that gets thrown in, and then there's a power element. And he says explicitly that his worldview of geopolitics, as he calls it, it's a science and a worldview. It's not a way of analysis. It's a worldview that it has a moral component and a power component, so a political component. It is about power, and it is for power, he says. It's for which one of these two types of societies controls the world. Now, the moral element is that the land powers, not just are they rooted in that they have these long-standing traditional values that don't change much over time, but that they also are located in the pivot points of world history. Russia in particular, he has an entire part of his book that's about Russia's unique location in the world as the pivot point or the heartland of what's called the world island, which is that thing. So it's Europe, Asia, and Africa together is the world island. And the theory is whoever controls the world island controls the world. And so the belief right now is that Russia is the natural inheritor. It has the right values because it is the people that were on that land and developed them as the heartland of the world island of the world. And it's being crushed by the sea powers that have colonized all along the rim, whether they've taken over and brought in their values through the Mediterranean, whether they've done so through Europe and then wasted all of Western Eurasia, whether they've done so across India through the British colonies and through Southeast Asia through the French and other colonies, that basically the Atlantic peoples have, and he calls this the anaconda strategy, have wrapped themselves around the land people like a snake and are squeezing it to death. And so the goal...
It's not that Antarctica doesn't have a leader. It's just got every single leader in the world. Yeah, everybody owns a piece of Antarctica. And some people kind of fight over certain pieces of it, but it's just... The problem with Antarctica down here is there is just an incredibly... to get there is one of the most deadly sea paths in the entire world. It's the Serpent's... the Dragon's Gate? Or the Serpent's Gate? Something like that. What is... deadly path. What is it? The Drake Passage. That it's it stretches about 600 miles between Cape Horn in South America and the Antarctic Peninsula. And it has it's killed a lot of people. It's just a brutal, constant, insane pathway. Antarctica's pretty harsh. It's very, very, very harsh down there. So everybody's got a little piece of it. Let's put it that way. But nobody can really sustain themselves there, which is why there's very few labs and very few activity in Antarctica. It's probably the most deadly place in the world. Genuinely, it's so harsh. So, yeah.
The goal is to kill the snake. The goal is to destroy this Atlantic water-based, sea-based value system, as he sees it, so that Russia can rise again as the center of the world that it was always supposed to be, but it's never been able to achieve. And so it reads strongly to me as like a therapy for a humiliated people. More than anything else. It's like a therapeutic ideology to say, Russia screwed up with the Soviet Union. It collapsed. It was not able to join the world capitalist, and it was humiliated, and it didn't want to join the world capitalist order because of its humiliation and anger. It got taken over by kleptocrats and oligarchs and all this wretched stuff. And it's good that way, and we're better anyway. And forget your world order. We're gonna break it, and it feels very much like that's his model. But it causes him to say that the other peoples who have these traditionalist values against the secular, rootless West should unify. So he has an entire portion where he talks very explicitly about how the Russian Islamic alliance should form and fight against the West, in particular with Iran. So a Russian-Iranian, and this isn't written back in the 50s or the 60s, this is written in the 90s. So there should be a Russian-Iranian alliance meant to destroy America. Now, this becomes very pertinent to the propaganda we're seeing from people like Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, and so on today. You see them supporting the Iranian regime and opposing the U.S.-Israel alliance against the Iranian regime, but this fits perfectly into Dugin's broad strategy to unite with the Islamic world, as he calls it, and Iran in particular, to destroy that Western snake that's crushing the land powers in the world island, which he thinks are destined because of their massive land that he has. They are destined.
Oh, yeah. You wouldn't catch me going on a cruise to Antarctica. No. No. So there are stray waves out there. They can happen anywhere in the ocean where, for some reason, out of all these tiny little waves, a big 20-foot massive wave can just appear out of nowhere and take a ship down. So it's always a little risky being on a cruise, especially if you're outside on the deck. You could just get washed right off the boat. Long story short with that, though, your chances are a million times higher when you're near Antarctica. So no thanks. Nah, I'm just not going to take that chance.
Destined to rule the world. They just haven't been able to figure out how to get there yet.
Okay. I've got so many different angles I want to explore here. Because,
So pretty much to wrap this up, Russia didn't pull away just to fight the West and not just be part of it because they were humiliated. What it was is that was the opportunity to get Russia into the traditionalism to be able to combat the West that way. Okay, gotcha.
The big question mark up until the last couple minutes of what you just said, and I think it's becoming clear to me now, is what is the attraction
a rogue wave? Yes, thank you, obscure moderator.
Americans.
You know what
and it was why is someone like Tucker Carlson, who born and raised in the United States of America, why is he even attracted to it?
Believe it or not, we almost know exactly why those rogue waves happen now, for the most part. Now the trick is predicting them, which is a little difficult to do, but I think it has something to do with the water pressure in a certain area. And it has this buoyancy problem where it keeps bouncing up and down like a trampoline. Almost like, you know how you steal a jump off somebody and all of a sudden that person flies up in the air? Like you're both jumping on the trampoline and you hit, and then all of a sudden that person just hits the trampoline because the other person stole their jump. You know what I'm talking about? That's how a rogue wave happens. They just don't know exactly why that happens quite yet, what causes the water to start bouncing up and down like that, and then predicting it. But we're actually there's a good chance we may be able to predict rogue waves within the next few years. And if we can, no ship should ever get hit by a rogue wave again, because you'll be able to start detecting that you're in this little area of this pocket that's going to produce one, and you'll know to get your ship out of it. So it's definitely interesting.
Why are these ideas at all attractive to Americans is one question on my mind. And the alliance with with Iran, the alliance with the Islamic countries, seeing it as that they're also pushing back on these rootless, libertine, seafaring peoples. The American types. Seeing them as fellow travelers and pushing back against them, I can see that. But I want to bring it back to what we're encountering now in America. I'll
add one piece before we do that, because
go ahead.
Piece to his philosophy with this anaconda strategy that he's describing. The anaconda is what ultimately squeezed and killed the Soviet Union, which he actually argues whatever its forms that it takes, the land idiocracies of the Eurasian continent are always correct. So the Soviet Union was actually good. Blah, blah, blah. But then it's crushed. And who he credits with having created the model that ends up, this anaconda model, this globalization of the Atlantic or the seafaring sea power model, is Henry Kissinger. So he starts talking about Henry Kissinger, the Council for Foreign Relations, the Trilateral Commission, the Bilderberg Group, and saying that these are the actual institutions that were brought up to kind of finalize and globalize sea power. So now you can see why somebody like Tucker Carlson, who's been opposed to this, Kissinger-esque globalist program, would be seduced by this kind of philosophy, because Dugin's not completely wrong that these so-called mondialists, as he calls them, and it comes from the French word for monde, or the French word monde, which means world. So the globalists are the mondialists, and they have this idea that there's going to be one great big happy world, that everybody shares the same fundamental values, and everybody has their cute little cultures, but everybody's basically the same, and that they just have to project out there and squeeze out the people with the wrong value set, fundamental value sets, and then everybody will join the capitalist world order, everybody will become sea powers, and so on. And that this was Kissinger's vision, along with these globalist nonprofit entities that seem to be the kind of string pullers of the world. So what he's done is he's identified the globalist project with the sea power project. He says that they are one and the same. So now you get these people like Tucker Carlson who are rejecting the globalism, and they're more nationalist or nationist in their orientation, nationalist usually, are getting pulled into this Duginistic thinking. And then Dugin's providing a roadmap for subversion of that project in order to break it apart. But what he's also offering is the wrong solution, which is that basically Russia becomes the pivot point around which history now revolves, that the entire Eurasian continent is unified under a rigid ideology that's going to look something kind of like probably Chinese communism, but he doesn't say that, but that's probably in practice what it'll look like. It might be Islamic in nature or some weird mixture, but the point is that we've got to get this Atlantic power object out of the way first. And so these traditionalist kind of paleo-conservative and paleo-libertarians that we're seeing turn against Israel, blame Jews for everything, and so on.
It would be kind of cool to get once I get like an actual studio one of these days, guys, it would be cool to get my dog in here and have like a dog cam. I could definitely do something like that one of these days. I just have no room in here to stick a dog bed or anything like that. It's pretty tiny. Pretty tiny little shack I got going on here.
Would be seduced by this line of thinking because it's criticizing the right thing for some of the right reasons while offering the wrong solution set.
Right. So, okay, let me just paraphrase back to you, make sure I got what you're saying. So there's legitimate disdain that we have for the globalist project, for sure. And especially in the post-COVID era, where there was a real sense of this globalist apparatus that was suppressing our freedoms and suppressing our traditional identities, for sure. And
yes, and now they're forming a coalition to make sure that doesn't happen again, pretty much. But
the left-wing wokeism and the trans culture and all of that was also viewed by people were trying to retreat to tradition. They wanted to push back against it. And you put all of this together, and it seems that these Duginite ideas were able to capitalize on those legitimate sentiments and just run with them. And then you end up with people saying, well, I want to reject all of the globalism and all the rootless cosmopolitanism, AKA the Jews. And it all becomes one soup. And then what I'm also hearing is like echoes of, when Tucker Carlson constantly echoes this idea, which is it's so false. It's so easy to disprove that the only reason that there's hostility from the Muslim world towards the West is because we've intervened in their affairs and because we've squeezed them. Which, if you're Putin and you say, "Hey, NATO promised not to expand, and now they keep expanding," you can see where the paranoia legitimately could come from. NATO did expand beyond what they said they should, what they said they would. But conflating that with interventionism in the Arab world and saying the only reason that the Arabs hate us is because we've meddled in their affairs. And why have we meddled in their affairs? It's all for Israel. So you can see where the dominoes fall, and this all becomes a very attractive ideology. And animating the woke right, but where it ends up is being on the side of Putin and Iran and hating America, and the question is then, for young Americans who are being pulled in by this, is there a point at which they look at themselves in the mirror and go, "Oh my gosh, where have I ended up?" I mean, like, how does this end up looking?
I mean, that's the hope, is that we can get these young Americans who've been pulled into this to have that moment. And what you said, by the way, about NATO, this is actually, again, this was written in the 90s, but this is actually on the list of anxieties about Russia and its futures that Dugin is writing down. He's talking about the expansion of the Western alliance from Western Europe through Central Europe, moving even in toward Russia to foil from the West any Eurasian.
So it's all with good intentions, as they say the path to hell is paved with good intentions, but then it ends up betraying America, getting rid of freedom as we know it. And they don't realize it. And they've pretty much tricked themselves into believing that Russia is a very, very, very free society when it's absolutely not, which is hilarious because it's not even surface deep. You know what I mean? Like you don't even have to break the surface of the skin to realize that Russia is incredibly controlling over every single aspect of their country, including on religion. They have a very tight hold on who can and cannot form a church, where they can form a church, how they can form a church. I mean, it's completely done by the government. So it's really strange.
Continental ideas from Vladivostok to Dublin as one Eurasian continent is the vision, right? And so now you have this threat from the West, and then you have the Islamic threat that the Islamists are not going to leave these kind of southern provinces alone. They're going to try to move into those. And then that you have the Chinese are not going to leave their eastern end alone. So Russia has this anxiety expressed here that it's going to lose. It's supposed to be the world pivot, and it's going to lose what it has as its gigantic landmass, as its primary thing that it has to offer to the world, because Russia, the Eurasian continent, can only be an autarky, as he says. It can only manage its own affairs internally if Russia is an integral part of that Eurasian program. So that's his vision. Now, what do you see, though, and what can we tell our young friends here that hopefully gets them to look in the mirror and say, my goodness, what am I helping? What am I hurting? So what are the kind of two things in the world, if I'm thinking about it, what are the two things in the world that actually articulate a fundamentally different vision to this Duginistic Russian, I don't know. It's like a salve for humiliation, for national humiliation after the Soviet Union. Well, it's simple. It's the United States of America under President Trump with his Trump doctrine, which is anti-globalist, but also it is not this what he calls multipolar world where we're just going to leave Eurasia to become its own separate superpower. But at the same time, it's also the U.S.-Israel alliance. The U.S.-Israel alliance answers the question of what does this sea power alliance look like where Western Europe is now faltering. And all of a sudden you see another sea power that's injecting itself into the exact heart of the so-called world island, Israel, that is thriving, successful, able to defend itself, and is in fact defending itself against this so-called traditionalist, occultist worldview that Dugin assigns also to the Shia. And so here you have a royal threat to this entire ambition to make Russia become the world pivot again and to build a Eurasian continent that's unified under something like BRICS or the Chinese Belt and Road Initiative or whatever it happens to be. And that threat is the dual threat of President Trump's anti-globalist but not multipolar doctrine. And
So is this what's happening? Is this why Europe is trading with Russia so much? Is it Peter Dugin somehow managing to get all of these Muslims all in these, like, in the UK and all throughout Europe? Is this all Russia's doing? Are they paying all these people off and getting them to kind of follow the same type of cult? It's interesting. Is this what reform is for Britain as well? Is this kind of like Candace Owens is pushing for reform so hard? And it makes me wonder if they're going to usher in all of this garbage too. And they're all joining up with Russia. So if they get and I don't know that reform is necessarily part of this. I haven't looked into reform very hard, but if reform is part of this, they're going to snap the UK right back into Europe. Europe's going to win all of its elections in the Russian way. And then all of a sudden it's Russia plus Europe. And now they form themselves into a much bigger world power that could actually pose a threat with the United States. However, if they partner up with China, now there's a real threat for them to be able to take out the United States, especially if they control most of Africa as well. So right now, Donald Trump defeating Iran is genuinely, it would knock out all those dominoes from underneath Russia. It really just kicks out the legs from underneath the chair. Am I following this right? Is that what I'm kind of gleaning off of this?
alliance that facilitates making this work that the United States has with Israel. And so those are the two things we see attacked most vigorously. President Trump and his ability to execute his vision at this crucial moment in history when we're trying to stave off this woke attempted revolution, and simultaneously the alliance that the United States has with Israel, which has at this point never been more productive, never been more likely to bring security and prosperity and safety to the world than it is now, that is challenging Iran and taking out terrorist cells on a scale that's never been accomplished before. The war on terror, as it was said, didn't really accomplish most of its goals. It wasn't able to go to basically the nerve centers that made the terrorists work, and now you have this U.S.-Israel alliance that is actually dismantling the terror, the centerpieces of the terror fortress or whatever, Iran in particular, as the chief sponsor for the last 50 years. So this thing, the Trump doctrine plus the U.S.-Israel alliance with the Trump doctrine is the scariest thing in the entire universe to these.
Am I thinking of restore or reform? I can't keep up with all the UK stuff. Is it restore that I'm thinking of? Or is restore the good one and reform the bad one? Is what? Oh, man. It's like every time the UK has a new movement, it's just a slight different change to the name. But it's like, this is 1,000% has nothing to do with the other one. I'm like, why would you name it so close? I don't know. The British people do be doing that stuff for some reason. All right. What is the exact opposite of communism? Communautism. Or something like that. Or, you know what I mean? They'll just name something close, like communism or something like that. I'm like, great. That's not going to get confusing whenever people are trying to talk about the two of them. And they're like, it is everything the exact opposite. It's just, I don't know why British people do that. It's funny, though. It is funny, but it does get confusing. Reform leader is Nigel Farage. Okay. So he was the author of Brexit. Yeah, I remember that. I remember that's whenever Sargon and Count Dankula actually ran for office with Nigel Farage. And then what happened to Nigel? He got kicked out of his own party somehow. I forgot. Oh, it's been so long. What was that? Like 2018? Something like that? 2017? I don't know. Farage is pro-Islam. He sides with the Iranian dictator. Okay. Nigel Farage. He was the prime minister at one point, right? And he turned out to be an absolute dillweed. Who is this guy? No, it wasn't him. Nigel Farage was the guy with UKIP, right? Was he with UKIP? Let me see. Was it UKIP? Yeah. Okay, he quit as UKIP leader. Why did he quit? What happened with that? What happened? Why did he quit? Okay. UKIP is in a good position. Will continue with my full support. Why did he quit? Do you guys remember why he quit UKIP? What was his reasoning? I guess he wasn't the prime minister. That was the other guy. It's so I just don't keep up with UK politics often. Okay. Well, man, was Nigel always the pro-Islam? I don't know. I'll have to look more into that.
Multipolarists who are under the Dugin doctrine. And so they have their U.S. propagandists who have bought into this philosophy for whatever set of reasons, money, the spell of inevitability, the world's changing, there's nothing we can do about it. It'll be good for you if you help us, but it'll be bad if you don't, that kind of thing. Or blackmail or whatever other untoward possibilities. Or maybe they're just ideologically committed. Who knows? Maybe Tucker's just an ideologue. Who knows? But Trump and the U.S.-Israel alliance are the two things that scare them most, and they're the two things that those people attack the most viciously, the most consistently, and hopefully our young people can realize, holy crap, the propagandists that I've been listening to for the last few years that I came to trust through the COVID years and afterwards have been now leading me into the exact opposite of what needs to happen in order to protect the world from basically a Chinese-dominated 21st century.
And it's so interesting that so much of this crowd in the U.S. especially is gravitating towards Orthodox Christianity and pre-Vatican II traditional, Catholicism, because as much as in the Bible, in the text of the Bible, the power flows from the individual. The individual is created in the image of God. Even the appointment of a king depends on the people desiring it and the consent of the governed. Each individual owns their plot of land granted to them by God. No human being rules over us. God is the liberator. He liberates us from collectivism and from Egypt, meaning the majesty of the individual, the sovereignty of the individual is very much a biblical concept, and it was a biblical innovation in the ancient world. And Protestant and Catholicism, traditional Catholicism, was much more of a kind of power structure. But then Protestantism, the whole revolution of Protestantism was really bringing the Bible back to the individual after the printing press, and individuals could have their direct relationship with salvation, and they don't need these intermediaries and priests, etc. And the whole ethos of America is built on that individuality, which is still very front and center also in Jewish thinking. And it makes me think that there's a spiritual component here, that there's a kind of common worldview, even if it's not a common theology, between both Islam, atheist communism, and this Duginism, which are all very much like your individual.
Hold on one second, guys. Oh, man. I gotta go. And that dog, I think he's tearing something up again. I'll be right back, guys. 1 second. Oh. Nope, that was the neighbor dog. So, it's not just my dog. Okay, so there's at least that. That's at least something to know. I'll talk with the neighbors about it.
Individuality is subsumed into the nation or the ideology is more important than the individual, the sovereignty of the individual, and the sovereignty of the individual can even seem quite libertine. It can seem quite quite dangerous to these people. So it seems to me that there's a spiritual component here.
There is.
It runs very deep.
As a Jew, you're going to get to laugh at what I say in a moment. But so I'll start by saying, let's look at this from the angle of kind of their, geopolitical, as it's called, perspective, this Duginist perspective.
Big old Doogie.
First of all, he names individualism itself as one of the wrong...
Neighbor dog's a good dog. Don't worry, though. Good dog. Just... Obviously, our dogs have found a way to play. And luckily, my dog wasn't back there at the time. So I was just like, what is that? And my wife was just like, what are you talking about? Bishop's right here. And I was like, and I looked out there and I just see paws coming up from underneath the fence there and digging down. And I was like, kind of ran out there and, just tapped on the fence and stuff. And obviously, the dog is, he knows he's not supposed to be digging as much as my dog. So he ran off, and I was like, you stinker, but. They love to play. They're good with each other. They don't hardly even bark at each other. They just run up and down the fence and, just kind of play around. So There's that.
Values of the sea power people. That
really,
because you are able to be an entrepreneur. He names entrepreneur. You mentioned entrepreneurship earlier without me prompting it. Entrepreneurship is the completely wrong value. It is the centerpiece wrong value. So the sea people have
he views it as
for him,
negative.
for Dugan.
Wow.
So you get to be an entrepreneur, you get to do what you want. There's going to be protected property rights. And then the individual is the most, he says the individual is the most mobile part of the group, therefore is the most exalted. So individualism is in fact the corrosive acid that breaks down this values-based land power mentality. It is.
So, of course, that's why Candace Owens seems to be going in a left-wing direction, it seems to be very, very rooted in a very left-wing type ideology as well, where there's individualism is criticized and all that stuff. So, yeah, I mean, it makes sense. It makes sense why this is so compatible with leftism. It also makes sense why the left is also very much, good with Islam, because they are very anti-individualism as well. You all do the exact same things. You're all the exact same people. You all are the exact same tradition. Nobody does things different. You know what I mean? It makes sense.
The problem, secularism and individualism are the problems. Okay. Now, so what do we have though in the West? We actually do have a spiritual crisis here. We have a deep spiritual crisis. And this is how the Duganists are able to capitalize on yet another piece of what's happening. I'm not one of these kind of strong, I'm a weak replacement hypothesis person. The replacement hypothesis is that woke was a replacement religion because the traditional religions fell away. I believe that is a weak explanation, but not irrelevant, right? So some people think that's the whole story. We lost Jesus, now we're woke. And I don't think that's true. But we have been, and I'm going to use a fancy word here, we have a very deeply deracinated population. We've been pulled up from our roots. We don't know what our spiritual roots are the way that we used to. We don't know what our national roots are, especially as Americans. We've been subjected to now 50 plus years of what I'm referring to just in general as critical America theory. Critical theory started to target American culture and American values, whether it was through race, whether it was through sexuality or sex, whether it didn't matter, or whether it's just
not knowing American history.
Yeah, just trashing American history. You're not allowed to just be proud of being an American and be proud of our history. You have to say, oh, well, we live on stolen land and all that. And you just aren't allowed to be, right? So here we have people.
Yeah, because the communists in Russia definitely just earned all their land. The communists in China earned their land. They didn't run off an entire set of people over to Thailand at all, or Taiwan, not Thailand. But they didn't run off an entire people, China definitely didn't build a giant Great Wall and steal a bunch of land either. Definitely didn't do that. Mongolians never tried to go and take back the parts that China did, or even take over all of China. India, of course, just never, ever took any land ever. None of them. Nobody in the Middle East ever took land. Everyone was there where they were. The only country in the world to have taken land and have stolen it was the United States. Somehow Canada gets off the hook for that too, which is the craziest thing because they were there at not the same time. We got to Canada a little later and did all the same exact thing to Canada and ran off all the Inuits, So it's like, yeah, don't the Inuits could just be forgotten, right? All of that stuff. It's hilarious how it works out that way. Yeah, and definitely Spain didn't go and take over anything in Brazil or Mexico or anything like that.
Who don't know how to feel proud of being who they are as Americans. They don't know their history very well. They don't know their spiritual history. Now, I'm not going to put Protestants on blast, but there is a difference here between what's called the high church and the low church, right? So the Orthodox Church and the Catholic Church are high church models. The church is a big structure. It's a solid institution. It's very organized. It actually has a core doctrine that goes beyond sola scriptura. So
and it has tradition.
And it has traditions. That's right. Deep traditions going back 1,500 plus years, depending on how we want to date things. Okay. Now, Protestantism is low church. Every man is a pastor. If you can read the Bible, you have your direct relationship. Therefore, every man is a pastor, and it frequently feels that way. Churches are sometimes, in strip malls. They don't have that art, that gravitas of a cathedral. There is no very strict robed hierarchy where the guy in the black robes answers to the guy in the purple robes, answers to the guy in the red robes, answers to the guy in the white robe. They don't have this. And then again, the tradition is really thin, right? The tradition is very, very thin. And then it's not just because the Reformation dates back to the 1500s. The tradition is very thin because there's so many denominations and people trying to actually grapple with scripture and find out what's theologically true. And it just feels like a low church instead of a high church. And this is a very big problem for deracinated people. Young people who grow up without roots look for roots. Yep. And so the roots, one of the easiest ways to find roots, and this is where you get to laugh as a Jew talking about Christians, is that the oldest
is this movie. Hear me out. No.
religions that they know to identify with are Catholicism and Orthodoxy, right? And of course, there's, even Romans, the book of Romans talks about a deeper root that they might turn to and respect, but that seems to be a bit of a problem for some of these people. But they're desperately looking for patriarchal structure, tradition, and that sense of everything in their lives. Think about your average young person who's grown up under woke nonsense their entire lives now. They don't have, like, you and I are old enough where we had a foot in the not woke world that we grew up and got our grounding in. Well, they grew up, everything's woke, everything's sand, everything's water, if you want to use the Dugan language, and churning around. They have no solid ground. They're looking to just connect to something solid, old, unchanging, and uncorrupted. Now, there's a huge irony there as well when you get to church, structures, but they see older equals less corruption. The tradition of 1500 or 2000 years, all the way back to the throne of Peter with no aberration, means they got as close to the source in Jesus as you could possibly be and still be Christian. And it's a long, uncorrupted tradition because it's allegedly in their minds the same tradition, and they're craving that rootedness. And along comes the Duganist philosophy and sells this idea of the West is rootless. It's a water-based society. Everything is up for grabs. There are no values. It rejects tradition. It's entrepreneurial and individual. It's not group. It's not collective. No traditions can hold. It's everything wrong with the world.
We'll see you later, Stargazer. Thank you for being here.
And this is exactly the propaganda you see on RT, the exact propaganda you see that the Russian state media portrays with, come to Russia commercials, and exactly the stuff that comes out of Tucker Carlson's mouth, Candace Owens' mouth, and on down the line with these influencers.
Wow.
Taking advantage of rootless young people to suck them into an ideology that.
Yeah, I mean, I get how it's easy to do that. I mean, in the United States, we really were just like, hey, freedom of religion to the maximum. And now these people, Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, especially all the Catholics are like, hey, we see this issue and we need to restore America to that point where everyone's like them. But again, it comes straight down to the typical thing that you see from people like that, which is authoritarianism. It happens every time where it's like, oh, you guys have strayed too far. Let's reel all of you in and make you guys kind of be a part of this. And it's like, it's just brainwashing. It's just also, obviously authoritarianism, which is always bad. You never have a good time with authoritarianism. And, they're stepping right into it. It's literally like it seems the right keeps getting narrower and narrower. And the left wing is just this big encompassing form of authoritarianism. Authoritarianism's huge. There's so many different ways that you can become authoritarian. You know what I mean? Very few ways to become free, because down the lane of freedom is just freedom. Authoritarianism can just take place in many different forms to try and squash that freedom. There's more ways to become authoritarian than there are ways to become free.
It's actually destructive and against their interests because it satisfies a craving that they have, because what they're dealing with is so torn up. That's right. It's a totally
legitimate craving. And that's the thing. That's where I think this conversation has been so helpful. And I think really gets to the bottom of a lot of this, because a lot of the conversations about these people are about the symptoms. And I think that we've really touched on some of the problems here. We've touched on the real issues here. That to sum it up in one bumper sticker slogan, this whole thing
get off my
is an extreme backlash to the decades of the postmodern moral relativism, breakdown of the family, breakdown of tradition, beating up on your American heritage, that whole witch's brew that these young people have been raised in, that this is what the backlash looks like. Mm-hmm. This is what it looks like. And it feeds right in to the reductionist version of the existential need that they have right now in this current moment in time. Wow, I think we've really gotten to the bottom of a lot of this. This conversation has been even more enlightening than I imagined.
Well, you reached out at the right time, and it's key to understand that Russian propaganda tends not to create problems, but to exploit existing problems. So it read the writing on the wall in this deracinated postmodern West and served up an answer that's absolute poison. And so, of course, now the radical right or whatever this, Duginist, they have a least favorite hyphenated word ever, and we get to find out the answer is that hyphenated word that they hate, which is Judeo-Christian. The Judeo-Christian value set are the roots that people are looking for. But I'm going to add another hyphen because we can make it even worse, which is the Judeo-Christian American system is like a trifecta of orienting your life around humility and around hard work, willingness to endure in order to obtain a good result, of honoring the individual in his capacity to bring light or value into the world. And so the set of values that kind of gets enshrined in the American founding that is very strongly Judeo-Christian, but in a uniquely American way. So Judeo-Christian American, an even bigger, hyphenated monster they won't like, is actually the answer. It's just allowing people, helping people, young people in particular, to understand what that means, why it's important, why it is their actual heritage as Americans or as Israelis even have a strong touch of this, the Judeo part at least, and the why this even alliance between America and
AAE, you're saying, why don't I ask that AIPAC registers as a foreign agent? Because they don't take foreign funds. It's all American fund. So why would they have to do that? They don't go to Israel and supply anything to Israel. They don't do anything like that. So it is just like, that would be like the same thing as saying that the Islamic ones also need to register. You know what I mean? As a foreign agent. It wouldn't make much sense because they don't have funds leaving the United States going to those other countries. All it is just a PAC. You know what I mean? It's a political, what is it? What is the proper term? It's a political action committee. So it's like, hey, we fund to elect people to take action on our behalf. So, quick question. If you think that AIPAC's money actually unseated Thomas Massie, what exactly happened when Kamala Harris lost her election against Trump? Can you tell me why Trump didn't lose the election? Because do you know how much money Trump spent on the election versus Kamala Harris? Trump spent $450 million, PACs included everything. Kamala Harris spent $1.2 billion on campaigns, ads, funds, everything. And she lost by a landslide. Thomas Massie lost by a landslide. Now, here's the thing. How much was the discrepancy between Thomas Massie and, what's his name? I just forgot his name. I've been saying his name clear every time, though. What was it? Stalrin? Right? Sarin? What was his stinking last name? Galrain. Why did I think of that? Galrain. I was thinking of Steiner for some reason, and then there's another guy that's really close that wears a full suit of armor too from Overwatch. What's his name? Reiner. That's it. It's like Reiner or something like that. Galrain. Anyway, I don't know what the heck was in my mind. So the difference between their amount of money was $700,000. The difference between Trump and Kamala was $700 billion. And Trump beat her badly. You see what I'm saying? So it's like the people voted, and Massie lost in a much bigger landslide than Trump's election against Kamala. So that's why it's like I can't say that money had anything to do with it at all. People went out and voted. They still filled out the box. They were the ones who elected Massey last time. See what I'm saying? So yeah, that's kind of crazy. What was I wrong about? I'm going to play this and go ahead and tell me what I was wrong about there, and I can pull it up.
Israel is so fundamental, not just from a practical perspective, but in this philosophical way as well. Like when you read John Winthrop writing in 1630 for the Massachusetts Bay Colony in his...
Okay, they spent $20 million in his election. What was the discrepancy between the funds? Massey had only spent $700,000 less, including all of his donations, PACs, and everything, than what was spent against him. So it was a massive amount of money spent on both sides. $708,000 or $780,000 difference. I can't remember. But I'm not talking about how much they spent. I'm talking about the difference between how much they spent.
Famous meditation on the shining city of the hill, on the hill, where he's, quoting from Jesus to say the shining city on the hill. But what does he say is that his hope and his prayer for the Massachusetts Bay Colony in Boston and in America overall as a colonial project is that it will be faithful such that the Lord or the God of Israel comes to dwell among us. And we'll know that it is true because a small number of us will be able to resist a large number of enemies, and we'll become a shining city and a light to the rest of the world because we've kept our end of the covenant, and therefore the God of Israel will be pleased to dwell with us. So this is his prayer for the United States in 1630. So our roots, this Judeo-Christian American...
They didn't spend $20 million. They spent somewhere between $4.1 and $9 million directly to beat Thomas Massey. So it wasn't $20 million. Kind of got it doubled there. So yeah, not quite that much. It was a total of $32 million for or against Thomas Massey. Now, if we go to how much money did all? I believe he had 31 million, something like that. Let's see. So the total for both sides combined push past 32 million. Oh, okay, that's the whole thing. 32 million was spent in the election. Thomas Massey spent 15 million. So there's that. So it was roughly $16 million spent against Massey in total. Massey was 15 million. So you could kind of see it here. Put up. In total, roughly 14 to 15 million was spent by Thomas Massey's official campaign committee and allied pro-Massey outside groups. When including his opponent's spending, the total for both sides pushed to 32 to 35 million. So Massey's campaign committee, Representative Thomas Massey official campaign, spent nearly 6 million directly. That's just Thomas Massey by himself spent about 6 million. That's a crazy amount of money, to be honest, for one guy to spend out of his own funds. Kind of wild. Federal Election Commission FEC records show his campaign raised over $5.5 million in total receipts. Oh, okay, that wasn't just his own money then. That was all fundraising. So he spent probably $500,000 in his own money, maybe to maybe $1 million. Anchored in a massive grassroots small dollar network and is over $1 million. His over $1 million. So he gave roughly over $1 million out of his Save the Republic money bomb. Gotcha. So that was his own little war chest that he built, was roughly a little over $1 million. Pro-Massey outside PACs supported super PACs, roughly poured about $5.6 million to $6.5 million into advertising to defend his seat and target his opponent, Ed Galrain. So, yeah, quite a bit there. The spending gap, despite raising nearly $14 million in pro-Massey total spending, Massey was heavily outspent by the opposition. Pro-Galrain spending fueled by Donald Trump and political machine AIPAC, and the billionaire-backed super PAC exceeded $18 million. Okay, so not quite. It was a little over $16 million, but still, $18 million. It's not the craziest discrepancy. After all of it, I believe the proper discrepancy, what was the total difference between the two? I believe it was 708,000 or 780,000 was the direct difference between. They said the total difference in spending between the two sides was approximately $5 million. Keep getting different answers. Kind of ridiculous, but it's somewhere between $1 million and $5 million. Again, though, looking at Donald Trump and his election against Kamala Harris, how much more money did Kamala Harris spend on her campaign over Trump? See, this is the big difference. And so you'll see this here in a second. Let's see. Now we go to this part. Kamala Harris and her official campaign committee spent roughly $754 million more than Donald Trump. They spent not only $750 million more, Donald Trump only spent $450. It was actually $445, but I rounded up to $450 million was the actual real total. $462 million. I know it's not that much more, but he didn't quite spend that much money. It was $445 million. So I always round up to $450 million. But as she spent $1.216 billion, the amount that she spent more than Trump was still more than what Trump even spent. So to sit there and be like, yeah, Donald Trump, that the money was the deciding factor, not even close. He spent less than double what Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris spent 3 times as much money as Trump and lost in a landslide. So for people to sit there and be like, oh, Thomas Massie lost because of the money? Nah. No. This completely debunks it. Otherwise, Kamala Harris should have just won. There's just no chance. No chance, The people knew what they were voting for. There were no mass mail-in ballots. There was no last-second, dump of ballots or anything like that. There was no mishandling of anything. The people went, they voted. They knew what they were doing. They didn't like that Massie kept voting against Trump. They voted him out. No other reason. Doesn't matter how much was spent.
Fundamental orientation and teaching people that this is valuable, that there is tons of pride to be had in subscribing to this.
Who cares how much money was? You're losing the point. Who cares who it was donated by? Money is money. You see what I'm saying? Money's money. What else did they do with the money? Is because the money came from AIPAC that it was magic money and it did more than what regular money could do? You see why that's just kind of a silly argument? You know what I mean? It doesn't matter who the money came from. It really doesn't. Money's money. More advertisements, more. What are they doing with the money? You see what I'm saying? So there you go. Yeah, how dare Massie actually vote against the SAVE Act and stuff like that? How dare Massie vote against the Big Beautiful Bill, right? Well, can you tell me what was wrong with the SAVE Act and the Big Beautiful Bill? Just wondering. Can you tell me why he wouldn't vote to get rid of mail-in ballots or why he wasn't trying to help deport illegals? You do realize Americans care way more about our economy and our border than they care about the Epstein files, right? Working class guy here. I work in a factory. What does the Epstein files being released right this second actually do to make it to where I can keep putting food on my kids' plates? What does it do to where, I don't have to have high interest rate loans right now? You see what I'm saying? Americans care more about that when they're struggling than the Epstein files are going to do. It's great that the Epstein files are up, but here's the thing. Name one president that's released the Epstein files. Well, Joe Biden had 4 years to investigate Epstein's murder. Never did that, did he? Barack Obama could have released him. Bush could have released him. He was known then. He was under investigation then. Yet Trump got him released. Just saying. And then they're still sitting there going on and on and on about the files and whatnot. The thing about it is that the files are not a priority. Nobody in the working class cares about the files. You are about Americans struggling? BBB defunded Meals on Wheels? I don't care about that. See, I work for my money, and I work to put food on my kids' plates. I work in a factory, dude. What do you think factory workers do? Do you think factories care about either charities or taxpayer-funded things? No. You know what factory workers care about? The fact that they're getting taxed at all. If we weren't getting taxed, we wouldn't have these struggles. So Meals on Wheels, we don't give a crap about. If we had our tax dollars, we would donate ourselves specifically to our local charities. and have our local communities taken care of. What about poor grandmas who rely on Meals on Wheels? They wouldn't have to if we weren't taxed. You know why grandma has to pay it? Because she's got to pay property taxes. And if she doesn't pay her property taxes, her kids don't get an inheritance. That's why grandma needs Meals on Wheels. But if they didn't have those taxes, guess what? Grandma wouldn't need Meals on Wheels. Kind of interesting how that works, huh?
To getting behind this and to seeing yourself in light of this without having to have these gross apologies about stolen land and whatever else, I think this is actually the remedy, and it's it's like the prophylaxis or the antidote to the seductions of things like Duginism or wokeism or communism.
Oh, well, my wife's a nurse. Do you want to take a guess why hospitals are closing down? I'll give you a good guess.
Or National Socialism as kind of these flailing attempts to feel something like dignity in who you are that's been robbed from you because your roots have been cut out from under you. So I think there's even a path to a solution here.
Well, from your lips to God's ears, Dr. James Lindsay, we're going to have to leave it there. This has been an incredible conversation. I really, I think it's one that a lot of our listeners are going to want to listen to more than once to make sure they picked up on everything. And from what it sounds like, you're doing a lot of reading. I could imagine that there's going to be some writing coming out of your pen on this topic, really getting to the bottom of what is.
Wait, the Better Business Bureau is not shutting down Meals on Wheels at all. What do you mean? Also, the BBB, I don't believe, is a government entity. I don't think they are. Yeah, no, the Better Business Bureau has nothing to do with the government at all. It's a private company. It's an independent nonprofit organization. Has nothing to do with the government at all.
Going on here, and I just can't wait to see. To see and be a part of further conversations.
And Meals on Wheels is
on this topic. Thank you.
Meals on Wheels is not subsidized by the government at all either. Local Meals on Wheels groups often shut down or scale back services due to rising inflation, soaring costs of food and stuff like that, volunteer shortages, and loss of local grants. So there's some local grants that they can get and stuff sometimes, but nothing about Meals on Wheels is federal whatsoever, and they do not receive a federal funding at all. So. Yeah. I don't know what you're talking about.
So much for doing this.
Yeah, thank you for reaching out today. It was a perfect time. This is all fresh on my mind. It's really important. So you couldn't have done a better timing.
Thank you. And thank you all for joining us in Shoulder to Shoulder. Next week, I sure hope that Pastor Doug will be back with us. As you know, he is...
Also, but this was a good informative video. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Wait, are you saying the Big Beautiful Bill is closing down hospitals? Oh, you're saying BBB. No, Big Beautiful Bill has nothing to do with closing down Meals on Wheels at all. They have nothing because it makes no sense. That makes no sense at all. Meals on Wheels is just they go around like the what are they called? The Salvation Army, and they go and collect donations. The Big Beautiful Bill has nothing to do with Meals on Wheels at all. Let's see. Sending it to President for signature. Okay. Meals on Wheels America issues statements on Senate passage of H.R. 1. What is H.R. 1, though? Okay, H.R. 1 is Big Beautiful Bill. Let's see. We oppose the passage of this bill and are deeply concerned that the Senate move forward with a budget reconciliation bill containing several harmful positions that could have devastating impact on the health, nutrition, and independence of millions of older Americans. Those provisions include severe cuts to Medicaid and harmful changes to SNAP. See, what it is Meals on Wheels came out because they were against what Trump was cutting. Not because this affects Meals on Wheels at all. They just were as an organization like, we don't support the Big Beautiful Bill. That was it. That's hilarious, though. Yeah, no, that's a wild claim to make, man. You should probably read the statement that, I'll pull it up for you. We'll pull it up. Meals on Wheels statement about the Big Beautiful Bill. Okay. Let's see it here. So they strongly oppose the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, citing that legislation, historic cuts to Medicaid and SNAP would increase your senior hunger and hardship. The organization warned that the resulting strain would leave local providers struggling to meet demand amidst already growing wait lists. Okay. The official statements from Meals on Wheels America detailed specific concerns regarding the budget reconciliation law. Threatened resources. The organization expressed deep concern that reduced federal funding and policy changes would hit community-based providers, which were already operating on razor-thin margins, with many expecting services waitlists. So what they're saying is, hey, if these things are cut, more people are going to come to Meals on Wheels, and we just don't got the funds. That's what they were saying. That's it. So they're like, we're going to struggle more. Well, guess what? Maybe they should hire on some more workers and fundraise more. You know what I mean? There you go. And then you'll have more. More people, if there are cuts like that and people have more money in their wallets, when they have more money, they will donate more. People are tired of living to paycheck and tired of supporting people who are living off the system and also getting Meals on Wheels who could actually be good, able-bodied working people. It's not just old ladies. You know what I mean? You're not talking about their statement, then what specifically does the big, beautiful bill cut from Meals on Wheels? Because you brought that up. There was never any federal funding to Meals on Wheels. There was not. Otherwise, they would have said here, increased demand, advocacy for seniors. They were not federally funded. They are a nonprofit. They can't be federally funded. That would be illegal. They're a private entity. Private entities do not get federal funding. Yeah, they weren't getting federal funding. Let's see here. So, let's see. Now, there was a Meals on Wheels program in Wisconsin that was federally funded. That got shut down. They should not have been federally funded, though. That's crazy that they would allow that to happen. But in any other state, see, look. Come, drag it over. Come on. There we go. Yes, Meals on Wheels programs in Wisconsin are federally funded. That's really, really silly. They should not have been federally funded at all. They never should have been. As for throughout the rest of the United States, no. No. Now, of course, we know Wisconsin and Michigan have a couple of issues with fraud at the moment. But anyway, no, they're not federally funded. So at the end of the day, they never should have been in Wisconsin. That's a silly thing. Also, I don't care. The United States has no business federally funding any of this stuff. I am all for certain types of welfare, I guess you could say. Totally fine for certain types. It has to meet specific criteria of being either disabled or, disabled people or of elderly age or of certain people who may be single mothers or something, you know. But for the most part, they better be very much diagnosed to where they cannot work. If you are capable of working, and I don't mean just in a wheelchair. If you're in a wheelchair and you're like 30 years old and you can wheel around and you're good, figure out how to get a desk job. It's not that crazy. You can still live life. You can still work. You can still do things. So I'm just tired of giving out free welfare for people who refuse to work that are absolutely able-bodied. So yeah, I don't care that this stuff got cut. I genuinely don't. People need to figure it out. And if we didn't have these crazy high taxes, we would be donating to our local communities. They have stripped us the capability of even building a local community because of how high taxes are all around. So we can't even do that anymore. Everybody's living paycheck to paycheck. As for hospitals, let me tell you this. Our hospital systems are completely and totally overran by not only massively morbidly obese people who are passing away in their mid-50s, because they're not taking care of themselves. And also, there is how would I put it? Illegals overrun the entire hospital system. And it's bad. Very bad. So if you want to know why hospitals are shutting down, it's because we don't got the resources to help every single person that has made bad choices in their life. That's what's going on. And that is overwhelmingly more than any other policy we could possibly have in the United States. Because hospitals are incredibly profitable. Incredibly profitable. They charge an arm and a leg literally when you go in there. So, what's the issue? Well, it's because there's too many people getting free healthcare. Too many people getting free healthcare means now the hospitals aren't able to charge. If they were able to go back to their normal thing with old insurance that we used to have, instead of insurance companies being able to be like, oh, you stubbed your toe? Oh, well, us insurance company will take care of all that, and you go get looked at. And then they'll deny other people for having serious medical issues so they can just kind of die off. It's kind of messed up, the backwards mentality that these hospitals have. And it's really brutal. So anyway, you're all for funding, federal funding for AI surveillance centers? What do you mean AI surveillance centers? That's not what they're actually for. I mean, maybe they're for that and they're keeping it a secret, but that is not openly what anybody has said whatsoever. So maybe we're getting duped, maybe not. But Trump did not come out and go, I am opening up AI surveillance centers all over the United States. It'll be perfect. I will watch every one of you take off your clothes before you get in the shower. Using AI. I don't think that's what's going on, man. We are right now in a major competition with China, who has very much unlimited resources and access to resources to build computers, while we do not. We have to purchase most of ours from Taiwan, while we are currently trying to build our computer chip centers here in America. And that is a really, really, really hard feat. Hey, if you keep going, keep with the insults, I am going to ban you, AE. I'm letting you know that now. Do you see me insulting you? No? Okay, keep it clean. So, there you go. Anyway, how much free money does Israel get from America year on year? And they get healthcare and education too? Really? Guess what? We also pay for all of Canadians' healthcare. You know that? Every single time Canada sends down somebody to have treatment in America, Canadian insurance companies only pay so much, and then the rest of the bill is footed. I mean, they give a bill to the Canadian person, but then they fly back to Canada. They're not obligated to pay it back. Not obligated at all, and they're not beholden. We pay for all their healthcare. We pay for all the healthcare from the free healthcare in the EU and in the UK as well, because again, they don't have the resources to be able to help people as much, so they fly people over here to the United States with their cancer research and stuff like that, and we foot the bill. So what are you talking about? Is it only bad when Israel does it? Is that what you're saying? But everyone else can do it to us. That's okay. China has 400-ish surveillance centers. America has 1,000 plus. Why do you call them surveillance centers? That doesn't make much sense. You mean AI centers? Now, yeah, China has way more surveillance centers than what we have. So I don't know what you're talking about. It's for AI, the use of AI to use as a whole. I used to work in a data center for 10 years. Fun fact. Had to give escorts to government officials, too, on those floors because they have cages inside of them where it's their servers. That was a crazy time. Because the largest Google site in the world is where I was a security supervisor at. So, fun stuff. Fun stuff. Okay, AE, so I'll make it make sense for you. It's really actually simple. Canada does not have the resources to do cancer research like the United States. So when a cancer is too difficult to cure in Canada, they send them into the United States. You should probably look this up. See, whenever you said something, you know what I did? I brought it up on the internet and fact-checked it first and posted it before I decided that I was going to rag on you. You could have done the same thing when I said something. You could have probably looked it up before you went and LOL'd and said make it make sense, because now you look very, very foolish that you didn't know that that's what Canada's doing. That's what the UK does. That's what the EU does. And guess what? My wife is also a nurse, so I have a little bit more inside information on hospitals than you would think. Now, I'm not saying that's where I got my info, but I do have a lot of inside information on hospitals. So you're kind of barking up the wrong tree on this one. But good try, man. Good try. Yeah, I've been following hospital news for a long time due to what's going on to our hospitals. And I know a lot of why our hospitals are collapsing. I know about the nursing shortages, the nursing strikes, and everything else going on in that realm because I live in that realm. I kind of have to. So, yeah, things aren't good. And you wouldn't believe how many nurses now have the responsibilities of a doctor and how much doctor responsibilities have dwindled over the years, pushing their responsibilities on nurses for things like, dosing up the proper medication, knowing what medication to give, before the doctor even suggests it and stuff like that. It's pretty wild stuff. Okay, so AE, you're just an idiot if you actually think cancer care in Canada is better than in America. Nothing you say makes sense. Why did you not? I'm giving you one last chance before I completely embarrass you. Why would you not fact check that yet again before commenting? You have a phone in your hand or a computer right in front of you. Before you make a comment, make sure I am wrong first. Okay? Okay. So, here is a breakdown of the top countries and their specific advantages. 1, the United States, best for cutting-edge clinical trials, complex rare tumor treatments, and pioneering personalized medicine. Key institutions, medical doctors, Anderson Cancer Center, Texas, Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, New York, and Mayo Clinic in Minnesota. Pros, unrivaled access to new FDA-approved therapies and experimental treatments, which other countries do not do. Cons, treatment can be prohibitively expensive if paying out of pocket without U.S. insurance. So what do you think happens whenever Canada doesn't have access to this technology? They pay for it, but they only agree to a certain amount. And then the United States drafts a bill for that said person for the remaining amount. But when the person goes back to Canada, they are not beholden by the United States to pay that bill back, so that bill goes delinquent. In other words, the hospital has to eat that money. Hospital doesn't eat that money, though. They write it off on taxes. They go to the government. The government, then our United States government, then pays for that delinquent bill. I know how this works for a fact. I live in this space. So you don't know what you're talking about, man. You could have fact-checked this before you commented, and you still decided to comment after that. I warned you about that, man. Like, it's wild. It's absolutely wild that you don't know this stuff and you want to argue. Come back another day when you've informed yourself on this topic, okay? The second best place in the world is Germany, okay? Best for multidisciplinary treatment planning, precision diagnostics, and innovative therapies outside of traditional chemo and radiation. They find alternatives that are less destructive to the body, but they're in general less effective for getting rid of the cancer. So there is that. Key institutions, German Cancer Research Center. That's it. Pros, high 5-year survival rates. Renowned surgical precision and generally more affordable costs compared to the US. So you get a little less. You get a little less from Germany than what you do from the United States. You have to have health insurance to travel international. They do have health insurance. In Canada, you are under a monopoly of insurance companies. Who do you think's making the money from this free healthcare in Canada? You don't even know how the system works, and you're wanting to argue this. You don't even know the basic structure of Canadian healthcare. You realize that, right? Same with the what is it called in the HHS, Human Health Services. Is it Human Health Services in the UK? What is the UK healthcare system? NHS, National Health Services. That's right. So National Health Services, they run the country the same exact way. The exact same way. So again, it's okay to get things wrong. It's okay to not know things. It gets really, really dumb when people claim to know things and argue before they do just a little bit of research. And that's fine. I could, there's a, let's see. There's a, what video did I watch that was a really good breakdown? A really, really good, simple breakdown of, I think it was called a breakdown of how the NHS actually, if I could type, actually works. How healthcare works in the UK, not CNBC. It wasn't them. How does the NHS work in England? It should have a thing here. This is about as short as it was. It was like a 5-minute video. The King's Fund. I don't know if this was it though, because it should have had my bar here, but maybe it resets after a couple years. But this video, I think, was the one I may have watched. It was only and here's a 3-minute video. How does the NHS really work? This one's a 1-minute video. It wasn't that short. 11-minute video is pushing it, but it could have been this too. No, this is 3 months ago, so no, that's not it at all. 8 years ago. This might be it. The King's Fund again. I don't know. I don't remember it having that thumbnail. It was one of these videos. NHS Explained? No, that's for subscribers. That wasn't it at all. I think it might have been those. I would recommend probably going watching that and just educating yourself a little bit as to how they bill, how they break it down, what insurance companies they are going with, stuff like that. It's all a major monopoly. And the insurance companies end up winning in the end. Yeah, oh, you're bored now with facts. Got you. It's much more fun to argue without outside of facts. Come on, man. I'm trying to help you out. I'm just trying to help you out so you understand how the systems actually work. Because when you understand exactly how the systems work, you understand why free healthcare is the worst possible thing you can do. Okay? When I was a kid, I had healthcare coverage on me from the age of 9. I think it was like registered, or no, they managed to register it as soon as I was born. So month 1, all the way to 18 years old, I was covered by my parents' insurance for $1 a month. Oh, okay. I'm going to give you a chance then, AE. Exactly who bills the NHS? Go ahead and tell me. You're saying not facts? My complete lack of common sense when it comes to international healthcare. I'm not talking about common sense. I'm talking about facts. It's not common sense. There is no common sense when it comes to how healthcare works. That's a really, really stupid statement. That means that everybody part of the system knows how it works. No, they don't. That is a crazy statement. You don't know how it works. Why would you say common sense? That's not a source. That's just a silly thing. You're like, oh, well, everyone knows how it works, so therefore I can make things up. Crazy. April says, I just did a Google search about the people who have to leave Canada after being offered assisted to die to come here to the U.S. to receive treatment. There were countless cases. There are very much countless cases. Most of the time, if you get a cancer diagnosis in Canada right now, they're saying use our MAID service, MAID. In other words, end yourself. And you think that's a good service to have? That's what happens when healthcare services go bankrupt. Just letting you know. They start finding alternative ways to service people, which means ending their lives. So, I don't know. I would hope that people would actually learn how their universal healthcare systems work before they comment and before they start saying silly things like, oh, well, it's common sense to know how it works. No, it's not. It's not at all. Most people would think that it's all the people in the country pitching in and then they fund all the hospital stuff. No, they're actually insurance companies that are very, very, very wealthy. They pocket all the taxpayer money at a massive, massive profit, and then they deliver less money back out into the system to pay for stuff. Let's see. AE says taxpayers in each individual country pay for cancer care. You are incorrect. That's not how it works. And you never mentioned anything about euthanasia. I don't care if you mentioned it or not. That's what's happening. Just because you don't mention it doesn't mean that all of a sudden it's not happening. That is a way they are cutting cost, is by offering euthanasia. That's what happens. They are going bankrupt. They are going bankrupt because insurance companies pocket the tax dollars and then they deliver less back out. It is a funneled system. So no, they are not paying for healthcare. They are paying for insurance on all of their entire people. That's what Canada's paying for. That's what Canadian citizens are paying for. They're paying for everybody to be covered, but they're not actually paying for the healthcare systems themselves. The coverage is paying that back out at a less rate. So let's say they take in the, let's say the healthcare system, or the Canadian citizens pay $1,000, okay, into their system. They get back $100 worth of healthcare. That's how it's working. And it's because they have a middleman company in between their healthcare systems and the citizens. Very simple. Very, very simple. And this is what they tried to implement under Barack Obama, and it got stopped halfway. Now we have those same insurance companies kind of between us, but we have a much more wider variety that we actually get to pick from. Oh, God. Okay. Okay. Now, for the NHS, there are no commercial insurance companies acting as a financial middleman, okay? They are integrated into care bonds, okay? So this is what happens. This is kind of similar to what happened in fascist Germany. They ended up merging state and corporation together. This is how they create a bunch of oligarchs. This is typically how almost every country does it when they go into socialism. So they integrated their care boards, okay? These are local NHS organizations that took over from clinical commissioning groups. This is what I'm telling you. I knew this off the top of my head. Now you can see it right here on the computer for yourself. I don't have to provide the information for all this at this point in time. You should go look it up at this point in time because you're arguing something you know nothing about. You just assumed that there was no middleman or that it was just directly like a government board opened up. But no, they integrated the care boards. In other words, they were separate insurance companies. They integrate them directly into their government, and now it's a monopoly. Again, I can come up with all this off the top of my head. I can pull it right up here in front of you. Now, instead of me doing it, can you take it from here? How many times would you like me to prove you wrong? Is there anything else you want me to prove you wrong on before I go ahead and hop off here and get my kids to bed? Just out of curiosity. Because we're having a good time. I don't mind bringing this stuff up, but, you know, kind of doesn't have as much to do with the video at this point in time, and I kind of got things to do, unfortunately. So, yeah. Anyway, sure, the malls, Uganda are great. Yeah, right. ICBs have nothing to do with insurance. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. You're just going to make stuff up, aren't you? You're really going to do this? Let's see here. Okay. All right. I'm going to pull this up. Let's see here. Okay. Let's see. What year was it? Oh, it was 1948. Okay. Let's see. So, in 1948, the NHS was formed, okay? They abolished the private health insurance model, okay? They nationalized their hospitals, made healthcare free at the point of use, and then the government took over, opened up their, what were they specifically called again? The ICBs, and that's how it all ended up getting funded, okay? And that's now they are the monopoly. Now, do you want to take a guess what these people were before that? Who is on the board of the ICBs for UK? And what insurance companies did they run before? So you're going to learn something about some board members here. So, let's see. There are currently dozens of independent ICBs across the country. With its own unique board of membership, but it's still under one guy's under the government, so it's a monopoly. While board members generally come from the public sector and clinical background, some non-executive directors bring cross-sector expertise. I thought that said... Never mind, I misread that one. Okay, so where is the... Okay, why did it not pull up the board members? Okay, yeah, who was on the board? How can I rephrase this? Oh, okay, I could just put list who is on the board. We'll pull them up. Okay, 42 regional NHS bodies who are... names would be nice. AI is such garbage. Oh, my God. Our board and leadership. Okay, I could just pull this up. Nope, apparently I can't. Access denied. Why? Okay, that's dumb. Why won't it let me see the board members? New and existing ICBs. No board members. Integrated care boards in the private sector. Where are the board members? Hold on. Name the board. Okay, that's... Why did that happen? Okay. List the board members of... Let's misspell that. Of the ICBs in a system. Why is it not wanting to do this? Our board members right here. Why was that so hard? Okay, load this up. I don't understand why I didn't pull this up the first time. Okay, there we go. Now, let's... Good Lord. Yeah, these are the people that I would love to have. This guy's fine-ish, you know. This guy's definitely looks like he's fit. Why is everyone else like... Okay, this guy's pretty fit. She seems pretty fit. Lots of very obese people on this board. Anyway, she was... I'm guessing a lot of these people were DEI hires. Let's get someone that's quite a bit older. So that way we can go back to their history. Cash, he's pretty old. Let's see. Let's see here. Vice chair. Oh, we got his LinkedIn. Hey, buddy. Here's your goal. Can I, gonna load? No, health insurance companies don't need to be abolished. They need to not have a monopoly. It's the monopoly that's the problem that causes this. Okay. Let's... Okay, I don't want his contact info or anything. Axine Group? What's Axine Group? Wonder what Axine Group... Okay. I don't want a career. What does Axine Group do? Oh, it's telecommunications, finance, energy, and innovation, stuff like that. Okay. That's pretty much your typical, what do you call it? Entrepreneurial, mogul. Let's see here. Okay, can I not see? It used to just have, like, I have to join to see his, like, job history. That's it. Okay. I used to be able to just pull up LinkedIn and see their stuff. When did that change? I don't want his contact info. I don't care about that. All of the companies that know Cash and Dia work for. Let's see. Oh, what? Jaguar, General Electric Company, Ford Motor Company, Novar. Is this the same guy? AWP Limited and Johnson Group. Pretty sure Johnson Group is an insurance company anyway. And APW. What is APW Limited? Gov.uk. Global manufacturer of integrated electronic enclosure systems. Racks, kiosks. Oh, he was into IT before. This dude jumps around a lot. Johnson Group. Let's see here. They are Canada's leading employee benefits provider. Huh. Well, there you go. Funny how that works, huh? Every one of these guys previously worked for an insurance company, and I'm gonna show you. Okay? It's not a coincidence that they all worked for literally benefits providers and stuff like that. Okay? comprehensive benefit plans and chamber plan, which provides overall small to medium businesses coverage, other stuff like that. All of these people are going to have background in insurance because this is how they collect the money and then they apply it to the hospitals. It's the same system. So, like I said, I know how the ins and outs of how the healthcare system works. I'm very invested in it. So again, look into this stuff. It will do nothing but benefit you to understand why we have a free global healthcare. Yes, even the United States hospitals, technically speaking, provide free healthcare to the citizens of the United States. All of the time. Our homeless, they do it for the illegals. They do it for people who just refuse to pay. They don't even go after them. So, where will I get $200,000 if I'm diagnosed with cancer tomorrow? I won't need to come up with that money. Okay, again, I'm explaining that right now. If that happened, I would just get all the treatment, you know what I mean? And then they have it all shelled off in a different account that doesn't affect really anything else. As long as you continue to make payments on your healthcare, monthly payments, they consider it to be in good chance. They don't do it like other loans, where if you don't pay on the loan, they take everything from you. Not how it works with hospitals, okay? People can get themselves into debt and stuff like that, but you can also get rid of 99% of that debt just by consulting with like a couple lawyers and stuff like that, and they'll get rid of a vast majority of the debt by offsetting it onto the United States government. That's how it happens. It just takes a lot more work to get it paid off. But you won't end up having to pay all that money. You won't. You won't lose your house or any of that stuff. So, I know lots and lots and lots of people that are in a really bad situation with no money that ends up, boom. But yeah, no, that's exactly why hospitals are closing. Exactly. That's exactly why they're closing. Because they cannot afford to keep going like this. The United States government cannot keep fronting all of this money from every single other country that wants to abuse the system, let alone our own people that heavily abuse the hospital system. The best way to stay out of the hospital, work out, eat meat and rice. There you go. Drink water only. Don't drink soda, ever. And you'd be amazed. You know? Be amazed as to what'll change in your life. And it changes very, very fast. It's unbelievable how fast it does. Brian Thompson. That's a very vague name, so let's see Brian Thompson. The CEO of the American Health Insurance Company? Yeah, he was murdered. Okay. Is that the guy that, who ended him? Was that the Luigi Mangione, the murderer? Yep. Okay, Luigi Mangione. Yeah, that guy's an idiot. Do you think that was justified? Do you think Luigi did a good thing there? By killing a guy that never once, like, had anything to do with his situation? It's not good. So, are you saying that, people are like, oh, that's so crazy, all that happened. Okay, what about anybody else who murders anybody else? But this one was the justified murder, right? Kind of a crazy take, huh? Kind of a crazy take to have. Well, this guy was murdered, so therefore, what about the other times that other people are murdered? I don't know if that's an argument. Carbonation and caffeine, I did too. It was the hardest thing in the world for me to quit drinking soda, I could tell you that. Hardest thing in the world. I've never, ever had such a hard time. But once you do, so good. Drink hot tea. That's what I did. See that? Got my Giganto Golden Girls mug. My wife's mug. Still. One of these days, I will change this. So I'm going to scratch all these letters off. I'm just going to put, well, not the top one. I'll scratch off the have, but it's no, I will not make out with you. That's going to be a great crossover, I think. The Billy Madison, Golden Girls mug. It's so funny. I don't know why that makes me mad. Makes me so, it's so funny to me. It's ridiculous. Oh, there went up. Oh, right. There. It should not be that easy to adjust. But anyway. Thousands of people by employing an AI system Wait. Brian Thompson murdered thousands of people by employing an AI system that denied healthcare to tens of thousands of people who deserved and paid to have their treatment covered. Okay, you know what else he could have done instead of shooting the guy? He could have gotten those 1,000 people together and started a class action lawsuit, right? So instead, though, just kill the guy, right? Maybe he didn't know that it had denied people wrongfully. They thought, oh, AI's ready, it's mature, and they implement it, and then it messes up. And then you have to kind of fight it out to get it figured out, right? Could have done that, could have went that route. And then guess what would have happened to his entire treatment? It would have been held, all these people's treatment would have been held in an escrow. And then after they got done with their class action, that escrow would have been paid off in full. And none of the entities would have required payment at that point in time because it would have been held in escrow by a judge. Yeah, guillotines were invented for a reason. You know what is funny about them? We got rid of them for a reason, too. You don't just kill people because they make a mistake. You kill people because they've either killed somebody, actually killed somebody, with their bare hands, or did something else that was very, very, very wrong. See, we figured this out as a society and decided, hey, violence isn't the answer. We litigate things through the court, and we also take things to the ballot box when we disagree. The people that are going around going, oh, we should start ending people because they made an insurance error. They decided to use AI, and that could have been handled instantly, put into an escrow, and then he could have received all his treatments. No delay whatsoever with the treatments, and he wouldn't have had a bill whatsoever. It's actually pretty easy because those thousands of people getting into a class action lawsuit, that's easy. Oh, lawyers eat that stuff up. They make so much money from class action lawsuits. That would have been an easy thing to have happen. So, he chose the wrong way, though. He decided he was just going to end the guy. And now he's in prison for the rest of his life, and he's going to be dead. So was it worth it? And now what did he do to change all those other people that got screwed out of the insurance? Now where's their position? You see why that form of extremism actually just screws everybody over? When all they would have done was just got the class action lawsuit, said, hey, here's the contract that I signed. Here's my coverage. And then this AI system wiped out the coverage. But I have my signed documented contract. Obviously, they would have won no matter what. You see what I'm saying? It's silly whenever we start advocating for things like that. You see what I'm saying? Just putting it out there. Anyway, guys, I got to hop off here. I've got no more time, unfortunately. Thank you all so much for being here. Genuinely, guys, you all have been awesome. This was a fun night. Just such a good night. Let me thank the people who donated real quick. Cherokee Chick for 10, actually. Joni Lee for 5. Lori Stoltz for 10. Okay, Pasto for $10. Thank you all so much for being here. Genuinely, you all are awesome. Yeah, guys. We'll do this again here tomorrow. We'll have some fun. We'll watch some more stuff. Hopefully, I can get something figured out. Not even convinced yet. Well, okay. Okay. Well, I don't really need to convince you. I'm trying to the only thing I'm trying to convince you to do is actually look this stuff up. And if you're not convinced to look this stuff up and think you know it all, I'm just letting you know that's not a good mindset to have. Because I don't know it all. I know you don't know it all because I've had to prove you wrong on several fronts here. So it's never good to think you know what you're talking about. If anybody, and here's the thing, when somebody questions me on things that I know, I still have the common courtesy to at least look it up in that moment because it's like, hey, I could be wrong. Maybe I misread it. Go back up, pull it up and go, no, actually, okay, here's where it is. Much safer to do that. It's a much safer, much more respectful way to argue with people in general. That's why I do it, And I would hope that will encourage you guys to do that too. Everybody to do that. It's never a bad thing to be respectful to people. Just saying. Anyway, thank you all so much for being here. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you guys here in the next one. Later.